something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Time we stopped, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Hello, welcome to day release. We are back after a prolonged period, and that is that.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get back on it, and we've got loads of films we watched this last couple of weeks, and they're all, well, we'll get into that, but they're a bit of a mixed bag. So we'll try and race through them.
I've been looking forward to this. I have to say, I've been looking forward to you not remembering any of them at all.
Yeah. The more well, you never know. No, I can imagine I'm not going to be very good at this. There you go. So yeah,
nothing's changed too much.
No, should we go through what all of the films are, or should we just do one at a time?
I think we'll just do one at a time. Because,
so the first film we're going to talk about is Saltburn, which doesn't really need that much introduction. It's by Emerald Fennell, and it stars Barry Keoghan. Wait, how do you say it again?
I think it's just Barry
Keoghan. And
I think it's say it because I think it's one of those names, right? Because a lot of Irish names are they scare people off and they start trying to get fancy with it.
Yeah.
But it is pretty much just as written.
Keoghan, yeah. And Rosamund Pike, also Richard E. Grant, and some others. Anyway.
Kerry Mulligan, right, who was in Fennell's previous Promising Young Woman, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen that. Have you seen it?
Yeah, that's pretty good actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Well, what I was going to say is, this started life as like, let's talk like a handful of films like we normally do, and then some other things just kind of got bolted on. So we'll kind of be a bit more. We're not going to be our hard, incisive insights as usual. We just because you mentioned, so we wouldn't have normally do Saltburn just because, like you said, it's a lot of people are talking about it, right? So we tend to stay away from that stuff a little bit. But this is on my insistence more than anything else, just because you mentioned you particularly seem to have something against this film.
I do,
and everyone else seemed to love it. So I thought, I want to hear this more than anything else. I want to hear what, and I hadn't seen it previously to that, so I watched it now. So I have my own thoughts.
But I'm curious as to what you are going to say about it. But yeah, could you quickly do the plot for anyone that doesn't know?
But I don't know what you're going to say, but I'm guessing I don't have as strong an opinion as you might have about it, because you seem to have a bee in your bonnet of what I'm keen to.
And mind you, it was long enough ago, 2 weeks or whatever, for me to have.
You don't remember.
Lots of memory.
You're just going to say, it was all right.
It was good, wasn't it? Was it good? But Barry Keoghan is a he appears to be a working class person who gets a place at is it Oxford or Cambridge? It's Oxford, isn't it?
It is Oxford, yeah, but
it's definitely Oxford, yeah. And
he's from Merseyside.
Yeah, and he befriends a bunch of poshos, and one of the poshos, especially one posho, takes him to his house, his country stately home, and then
Jacob Elordi is the the main marshal.
Yeah, and then they faff about, and then all of a sudden, it's all been
Barry takes his clothes off.
Barry takes his clothes off, and he goes, "Do you want to fuck me or what?" And all of a sudden, he becomes really sexual, and then that's when he starts to kill them all. Oops. So.
Right.
Richard Grant is good, isn't he? In it.
He's always good, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's good. Well, so we should. So it's in the vein of like it's when another one of those films, like I suppose the big one is the Pasolini film Teorama, right, with Terence Stamp as like the stranger who comes in and changes and like kind of picks apart at the seams of a family. And kind of sets people against each other, that kind of thing.
That sounds good. I wish I would have watched that.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of Talented Mr. Ripley in there as well.
Yeah, which I also haven't seen. I think I've seen films like this before. I'm not unfamiliar with the genre, but I can't remember which ones I've seen.
There's a lot. Well, there's that Miike Takashi one as well, Visitor Q, right?
No,
which is the same things that comes in and out. Anyway, there's a whole bunch. Like
I think there might have been an episode of Pingu.
Pingu, yeah. That's the one. That's
probably what I remember.
I just want to say I would recommend. Maybe you don't need to bother with the film so much, but the Ripley books are really good.
Oh.
The Patricia Highsmith's Ripley books are really good. I would recommend reading those.
So reading doesn't sound very. I've got a huge pile of books next to my bed that are completely unread. That it's not going to happen. So every time someone recommends a book, I bought a book off a recommendation the other day as well, and I knew it was just that has to be the last book I ever buy, and I can't buy another book until for the rest of my life. No, I think.
What was the one?
I can't remember the name of it. To be it's a big.
Right, so that's the setup, right? And everyone's falling over themselves to talk about how great Saltburn is.
Are they?
From Rob.
Yeah.
So I want to know what Robin's got against Saltburn.
Sure. It was quite badly acted. It was badly written, pretty badly written, and to me, it just seemed like it really had the feel of a student film, but by someone who's so fucking wealthy that they can afford to make a feature film for their student project. In fact, the whole time I was watching it, I thought, is this person who wrote this, is the writer of this film, or is the writer and the director the same person? Because I didn't know anything.
I believe so, yes.
Yes, so I know now, but when I was watching it, I went in blind and thought, and number one, are they the same person? Number two, are they fantastically wealthy, or from they posh basically, so after my research just made me hate it even more, because then I realised she's definitely posh.
I don't know that about. Is she posh? Is she?
Oh yeah. Right.
I kind of know what you mean. It's got that slight air of someone from that background, like wanting to be satirical about it, but they're so embedded in it that it just comes off as really cartoonish.
No. All this, it was satirical. I don't buy it for a minute. And most of it, I don't buy it. Like, for example, Simon Mayo interviewed her, and he said, I didn't like anyone in the film. And she was quite taken aback. She's like, oh, right. Oh, and then she went on to say, like, oh, they're all aspects of her personality. But but then she's twisted her. You could see her initial reaction was, what? But they're all lovely. They're all part of my personality. And then it turns out that that she actually so she sort of changed the way she just seemed to be reacting to what people were reacting to and just going with it, and changing what the film meant in accordance with what other people were saying to me. I think there's elements of humor. All right, but you have seen the other film, so I will give her the benefit of the doubt, but there's elements of humor, but I don't think it's a scathing satire of posh people. I think it's. I mean, there's obvious things.
A scathing satire because, it's the
class struggle,
and it's very soft target, right? But what you're saying is it's not even an attempt to be a satire.
Well, it's obviously supposed to be funny. Like there's Richard E. Grant's got the best lines and stuff like that, but to me, if anything, it seems like well, okay, that wasn't my initial problem with it anyway. I'll go into my initial problem in a minute, but but because of my initial problem, it sort of fanned out into me just hating it in this really all-encompassing way. But apart from obviously certain bits, I do like the bits of I do like the elements of humor in there in times, but it was like Barry Keoghan's character is kind of it plays on this thing of watch out for sort of it's the middle classes you got to watch out for. Obviously, poor people aren't going to be clever enough to infiltrate a posh household and wrap everyone around their finger, but someone who's got a bit of brains will be able to come in. So it weighed a lot on that. It put a lot on that revelation, if you like, which was a bit crap anyway. And then, but the thing is, he didn't do anything to wrap them around his finger. He didn't. It just went, and the whole thing. That's what the reason why I thought the person who directed and wrote this must be posh, is because every time they came up to a difficult point in the narrative which needed some expanding or whatever, or problems, it was just like, oh, I'll just do it. Don't worry. No, just do it. Just get on. Like, let's just put it out there. Let's just see what people think. So, there's no build up, at all to him. He doesn't wrap them around his finger at all. It's just he just suddenly starts going, oh, so what? You look fucking dead nice in that dress, I tell you what. And they're like, oh, thanks. And and fucking Archie Farley's, the character Farley, all he does is fucking annoying character who just insinuates things by raising his eye. I hate that in films where people are supposed to be cool and kind of lascivious by going, talking like that. So you're looking very. Those glasses are fitting you well, Clive.
Right.
You're sitting at an angle.
Yeah. No, it's true. None of there's definitely no depth to any of the characters at all, which is not necessarily a problem. But I'm surprised. I don't dislike the film as much as you do, and neither do I like it as much as people seem to. But I am surprised how much it's gotten away with having really cartoonish, like some people seem to be thinking this is like it's a really savage, and I'm thinking, no, you need real characters for it to be anything like that, right? This is if people just took it as like a black comedy thriller that had nothing at all to say, that would be fine. I wouldn't have a problem. but it's the fact that people seem to be reacting to it as if it's a kind of revelatory.
Yeah, well, it's not a class satire, is it? I don't see how it's a class satire. It's, you know, it satirizes posh people to the extent that Richard E. Grant is really dumb and they're all really kind of useless and crap. But I mean, it's
and whenever there's a crisis, they just all go, this is good, isn't it? This food, isn't it? You know, and you're thinking, come on, like that's pretty easy. But like I said, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that if people were reacting to it in that way. But for some reason, people seem to think it's like really, really, really like they've never seen anything like or something, and I
very
don't
deep.
understand.
It's very not. It's extremely shallow. It would be fun, but to me, that's part of my reaction. Is just we obviously have, you know, a big problem in Britain with you know, with the film industry and you know, it being sort of overrun by posh people, you know, well overrepresented. And
well, it's funny that there's a similar thing, isn't there? I was listening to a few different podcasts and reading and stuff as well. From what I understand, and this is definitely visible, is the other area of British show business is stand-up comedians, right? Like for instance, no one can afford to like go to places like the Edinburgh Fringe and stuff anymore, right? Like there used to be a chance you could maybe, you know, get seen and build up, but you can't afford to do it anymore. So the only people like getting launched in, you know, by and large, is a lot of posh people, and you see that, right, when you watch TV panel shows and stuff like that. The amount of posh people, or people from good backgrounds.
I don't really watch panel shows very often anymore, so it's like I've been sort of lost. But I do listen to the news quiz and stuff. Yeah, I think so. But there's also, I always presumed, I think, that because the BBC's gone so rightward and had to be so, because comedy has traditionally been, you know, sort of left wing or occupied by mostly left wing people. But I thought the rightward shift was because they're trying to constantly get balance so they don't get, you know, criticism from the government and stuff. But
like, there's no reason for anyone like Michael McIntyre or Claudia Winkleman. There's no reason those people should be on your television screen, right?
No. No.
But anyway, back to Saltburn. So,
anyway, yeah. Go on.
So what was it? But you were saying that was all that exacerbated your initial problem.
So my initial problem was like I say, I think it was just the thing I was talking about, where every rookie mistake that she made as a director and writer, you know, a really clunky dialogue scene, like the scene in the lots of the scenes between Barry Keoghan and the Felix and Oliver were just awfully written. Just really just excruciatingly bad dialogue, and
because it had that polished, it kind of got away with it. You think because it didn't?
Well, it's just, if it, you know, I can't think of anyone. I mean, I know Ken Loach is not necessarily working class, but he does, you know, if Ken Loach did that film because he's not favoured or whatever, you know, I think he would get eviscerated. I mean, he is a director with a lot of experience. I'm trying to think of someone who, if they came out with that kind of film with that, you know, yeah, okay, you've got a couple of good jokes in there, but and you do have, you know, do you have some ideas? You know, the idea of filming it 4:3, or, you know,
right? Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, for instance, at no point did I buy the fact that, because obviously he's supposed to be in some way an exotic working class creature, right? And that beguiles them in some way or something, right? But I know what you mean, and as good as, because I like Barry Keoghan in general, I think he's really good. But I know what you mean. The character, at no point did you buy that they would be seduced by
No,
him.
no, not at all. And then on the other hand, so you either say, okay, it could be a superficial romp kind of laugh, whatever, and yeah, a superficial film that's fun to watch and whatever, but none of the characters were enjoyable to watch. Even Barry Keoghan's character
going
was
by
not.
your thesis as well, and this is kind of interesting. I hadn't thought about this. For us, the way the character is not at all seductive, and you wonder why they all fall for him, and but then you're thinking, well, maybe that's because we're not poshos. Maybe if you are poshos, maybe actually it makes sense. Maybe he does seem in some way exotic or something. So the film's almost a victim of its own.
Did I ever tell you about? I had my own Barry Keoghan moment. Did I ever tell you about that? So I went to my dad being with Greenpeace and all this sort of environmental stuff. So he got invited to this stately home during the eclipse to watch the eclipse. I don't remember when, 2000 something. 2001 or something. Anyway, I can't remember. But I never told you about this. Anyway, and there were fucking Kate Moss. It was like a stately home, and everyone was camping on the grounds and stuff. Kate Moss was there. Jay Jagger was there. I asked them for a light, and they're like, "No, I don't want it." But I got to know all these kind of models, like supermodels, through that, and they all just thought I was posh because I had lost my London accent by then, but I had moved back to London. So and then we had a good weekend, and made friends with a few of them, and then there was this woman, I can't remember her name, but she was a proper supermodel, and I got a lift with her and this other guy and this crazy, absolutely batshit crazy, apparently 17th in line to the throne, madman, posh guy who drove all the way. He's had a window missing in his car. He drove all the way back, like one-handed, rolling a spliff about like a Camberwell carrot on on the motorway. He'd drive up next to us and go, like. And he had like a cloth over his window, and and he was completely insane. And then we all I think we lost him somewhere. I don't know. He got. I mean, everyone was desperately trying to lose him, apart from me. I want to know who this guy is. Like, he was, really degenerate genes, I think. Anyway, and
he got called on his car phone to the House of Lords.
Yeah, probably. It was such a rush of it was like a weekend, and it was a rush of posh exposure. It was like, and then they came back to my house, and they were like, my mum smoked like 100 a day at that point, and and the walls were all, and it's a council house, and they're like, "Oh, I thought you lived like somewhere different." And I had to make them a cup of tea, and I'm really disgusted by everything, and then left promptly. But then that girl tried to get me together with Yasmin Guinness, ironically, because obviously I lived in Guinness Close, and she's like, "Oh, I know who you'd love." Or who'd love? She literally said this to me. She said, "I know who'd love you, Yasmin." Okay. And it was Yasmin Guinness, like the heir to the Guinness.
Yasmin Guinness is
the heir to the Guinness fortune.
Oh right. Oh yeah. Okay.
She's like, "Come to a gig." I came to a gig, and I absolutely panicked, like trying to work out what the fuck I should wear to one of these posh people's gigs. I had no, and I think I wore and I just sort of hung around in the back. Sorry, good.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because in that environment as well, it's just wear anything, it's fine. And, but in their world, that means some ridiculously expensive thing that they've just thrown on the floor, and they don't really have a concept of properly not having anything to wear. Right?
Yeah, and I think also I'd gone from being like I'd been this out, within more of my comfort zone, which is like camping and chatting to people around a campfire. I can do that, but I cannot go to like a swanky kind of, it was like a cavern club, but in London somewhere, I can't remember where. I can't go to these places where it's like 15 quid a drink and I cannot fit in. I just can't do it.
No. I know what you mean. I can't. I'm not very good, for instance, at. I like nice food, but I hate fancy restaurants because I can't relax. And if for me to enjoy food, I wanna drip it on me and just scoff, and that's me enjoying my food, and like a pig, like swill. That's I'm enjoying it, and you can't do that in a posh where you have to worry about sitting right and not putting slouching, and because you digest your food properly.
I can do that. I can't relax eating food at home.
Okay.
I was brought up half and half, and
right.
Yeah. Eat your pizza with a fucking knife and fork, Robin. Otherwise, I'll pulverize you, you cunt. Oh, sorry, Dad. That wasn't Dad, but yeah. Anyway, I didn't have a dad. I did have a dad. Anyway. So those are my problems.
I agree with you. It's not convincing that he's unless maybe if you are genuinely posh, and so maybe that's the trick we're missing. And the other thing as well, so there's a few moments people talk about. There's like the bath scene and stuff like that, and you're not quite sure what his motivation is, blah blah blah. And then towards the end of the film, and the thing is, like I said, I didn't actively dislike the film, but it was just kind of okay. And then if they'd have ended it before the
that's one more problem. Sorry, carry on. Yeah.
No, I was just saying, if they'd have ended it just before the big reveal where they actually showed you exactly what happened, I was like, well, that would at least be. I think I would prefer.
You're getting me annoyed now. Sorry.
No, I would prefer the ambiguity, even though it wasn't good. I would prefer the ambiguity of you didn't quite know. But the fact that they did the whole going through and pointed out exactly when he tricked them, I found that was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
In the stupidest fucking way. Number one, in the stupidest fucking way. Number two, you just reminded me, we're running out of time. Oh, dear.
No, we've got 10 minutes.
Okay, right. Okay, so first the film starts. Huh? It's going to take 5 hours. It's going to be a long episode. No, it's the last thing, because they started off with this him in this fucking suit, like it's like Usual Suspects or whatever. He's like, I was working at Stokey and Annoy or whatever. He's like dressed up with his hair brill creamed and stuff, and it really deliberately is like he's at a police station. Being interviewed, something like that. Yes. So you get that glimpse.
I know what you mean,
and
when
then
he's doing all that.
Yeah.
Yes, I suppose I should have known what was going to happen. Yeah.
And then that turns out, and I don't mind spoiling it because it is shit, and I'm sorry, but it's really fucking terrible. It ends with
that bad.
It is really bad. It ends with him. Oh no, he just dresses up in a suit when he's looking after. Well, not when he's sitting next to the woman to the what's her name?
Pike character.
Elspeth. He dresses up and brill creams his hair so that he can goad her properly in a chair. It's just fucking like what do you think you're doing? And then
that's not properly thought out. Right?
It's just like, just do it. Just like, but we want it to look like that, and then we want it to look like this. It doesn't matter. Just go with it. No one will care because I'm posh. It doesn't matter. Like, it fucking it does matter. It looks
I know what you mean.
stupid.
That is very much a cheat, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's sort of, and then but if you want your film to be clever, which they clearly did want, then have some clever ideas. Like,
no, I know what you mean. It's like
they weren't clever ideas.
They've seen that in another film, right?
Yeah.
They've seen that in another film. They've seen, oh yes, do you remember that film where at the beginning it looked, he was in the police station, he was confessing, yes, like that.
Yeah.
But they haven't thought it through.
And then I want like him to, we'll reveal like his really clever trick. So like he put a pen behind his ear and then he like sticks it up his bum and then he's walking around the pen his bum and then oops, he sits down and oh no, it's gone through the chair and then he goes, but it was all deliberate because he wanted it fuck off. None of that is in any way clever or realistic. I know that wasn't exactly that. I can't remember, obviously, what he actually did, but it was stupid.
Pen, but I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what it feels very retroactively filled in.
Yeah.
As opposed to them actually having properly layered it and thought it through and
yeah, because how did he? It was a lot of his how he got. Like, the way he killed Felix was, just spiking his drink or whatever. But the way he killed Farley, I thought, wasn't that one of these stupid ones where it's like an impossible, like connivance, something like, I can't remember what he did. Anyway,
I don't remember. That's the thing as well. It's quite telling. I don't remember any of the kills really, which is kind of. That's another thing. If you're making like a film like this, it should be at least ghoulish good fun, right? Like I'm thinking of something like a Vincent Price film, Theatre of Blood, or something like when he takes revenge. It should be like a deliciously memorable type of.
Yeah,
revenge,
number
right?
one, you're going to want him to win their confidence without, in a way that kind of properly dupes them, and then you want them to be abhorrent enough to him to make it sort of to relish it, and then also you want to you want to have a nice inventive death for each one as well. As well, the fucking the period thing as well, that was like, what, because women love to have period cunnilingus, don't they? They're just always trying to have that.
Yeah, because you don't really hate, for instance, the Richard E. Grant and Rosamund Pike characters.
No,
they're so like Tim Nice but dim characters.
Yeah.
Right? So then when he takes, I suppose the other way of looking at it is like, oh, okay, then so are we supposed to find the Barry Keoghan character more, monstrous? But then, well, if you're doing a satire of, it doesn't really have a.
Yeah, well, you just plays into.
On the one hand, it doesn't have a strong, class war take on things, but then also at the same time, it doesn't have a more of a an existential kind of isn't humanity shit kind of thing either, right?
No, it's just fear of middle class people dressed as poor people, because we love poor people. They're interesting, but middle class people are annoying and boring, and we don't want them on our house. And imagine one of them dressed up with all their intelligence and all their annoying degrees and stuff, and pretended to be poor, and then we're in your house and you thought you had a really cool middle class, working class person. Like, have you seen the was it Harry and Paul sketch with the Geordies? Have you seen that?
No, I don't think so. No.
Oh, I want to show you it now. I want everyone to
look it up.
Look it up. Yeah, it's it's a northerner. It's like a it's basically a Geordie. Paul Whitehouse is a Geordie, and who's like a dog, like a pet. Anyway, it was like that. All right, I guess we'll leave it there and move on to next one.
Yeah, no,
I'll probably carry on running throughout the whole thing anyway.
I didn't find it quite as annoying as, but I can see why it might have annoyed you. I thought it, yeah, it was, but no, I take on board all your. It certainly is not the great film that people are banging on about. So, yeah. So you wanted to tie Saltburn into my old school, right?
Yeah. I think.
How are you going to do that?
Well, the reason was because I thought, speaking of false identities, and I don't know, when I watched this film, unsurprisingly, my memory is really poor, but I must have been sitting watching it over Christmas or something, but I can't remember where I was, or I could have been in a whole cinema doing it. I could have expressly gone to see it, with the cast, and I still wouldn't remember. But
it did get a theatrical release, I think, didn't it, briefly?
Yeah. Anyway, but I remember thinking, oh, that's good. And then when we watched Saltburn, I thought, oh, Barry Keoghan looks like Brian McKinnon. And you don't believe me, but
well,
it's true.
It's not that I don't believe you; it's that he doesn't.
Can I get the picture up just for the sake of it?
Well, you're in charge, so yeah. If you know how to do it,
hang on. Oh no, you're in charge.
Well, I'm recording, but
no, it's your Zoom, isn't it?
That we're on at the moment, yeah.
So how do I share it?
You can't.
I can't share with your one.
I don't know. I've never done this before. I don't know what you're trying to do.
You've disabled screen sharing. You have to go to your options.
Okay. Is that up the top? Is that square?
No, that's the view. If you go to if you go up the top and go to, if you just go to preferences up the top. We'll delete this bit.
No, this is good. Well, the only thing I've got up the top is view, and then the time.
Have you not got an edit preferences, or I've got preferences.
Nothing that says.
Are you on a PC? Are you?
Yeah. Nothing that says preferences. Along the bottom, I got security, participants, chat, share screen. Is that?
Yeah. If you click on that.
Yeah.
And then
one participant can share time, multiple participants.
Yeah, that's your multiple participants.
Okay, I've clicked that.
Okay, now I can do it. Okay, here we go.
Good, right.
Right.
It was all worth it for this.
It will be. You'll see.
Yeah. I'll see that Barry McKinnon looks nothing like Barry Keoghan.
Wait a second.
The real one, or he looks like Alan Cumming, because he definitely doesn't look like Alan Cumming.
Oh, for crying out loud. The real one, yeah. He definitely doesn't look like Alan Cumming, no. Now I've lost everything. For fuck's sake.
Okay. Well, that was a good bit of the
so good.
But we can talk about my old school a little bit.
Anyway. Instead, 1 second, I've lost us both. Right, there you go. Right. That was great.
Okay.
I'll flash it up. I'll flash it up.
Yeah. You put it in here later.
And people can see.
Post. Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't really matter. But it's actually, to me, the documentary was pretty moving. I found it very interesting because I mean, obviously it starts off with cartoons and stuff, which are kind of a little bit distracting. But yeah, it follows the life of. Do you actually remember it? Because it was right when we were in school. You remember
you mean in real time?
Yes, the real event.
No, I don't. No.
I have a vague memory of it. Because I do have a decent long-term memory.
So for those who haven't seen it, and without giving away too much spoilers, it's basically a story about how do you do it without? Okay, just fuck it with spoilers.
Yeah, but with the minor spoilers. But I don't think it matters because.
No, I think a lot of I think most people going to see this film as well. I think the publicity must have had something about the main. So basically, it was a
it's a documentary about
Bearsden Academy, which is in a nice area of Glasgow, right? And a kind of old style comprehensive school on its last legs, a bit run down, and a student turned up. Basically, it turns out he claimed to be from Canada, right? Son of a opera singer who travelled around, and it turned out that not only was he not a 16-year-old boy, but actually a 32-year-old man, but that he'd actually been to the school before, right? And in one of those stranger than fiction moments, it's interesting. If you'd have written this story, if you'd have made it up, no one would have believed it, right? It would have been, it's so ridiculous because you still have teachers there who'd have taught when he was originally. And then you see pictures of him, and he's so clearly not a 16-year-old. And it's fascinating to see everyone react because the way they set it up is that, like you said, they have animations to show, to portray certain scenes, and then apart from the main guy who refused to be involved, they have on-screen interviews with all his classmates now that they're grown up, and then in the place of him, they have Alan Cumming, who I think when the story originally broke and they were going to tell the story back in the 90s, he was actually going to play him, right? Then, because there's footage of him on a chat show or something. So they have Alan Cumming basically,
he's lip syncing.
Yeah, and everyone else is real. Right?
So Alan Cummings is lip syncing Brian McKinnon or Brandon Lee, as is known in the beginning, his voice, which was weird to get used to, but they did say that in the beginning. But occasionally you can see, because it's hard to tell, you can see that Alan Cummings goes slightly out of sync, ever so slightly, and you can tell, you get knocked back into the fact that it's not actually his voice. But there
was another film that did that a few years ago that did it really, really, really well. Did you see that film, The Arbor?
No.
They did a similar thing in that film, and they did that really, really, really well in that film, I thought, where they had actors in place of, but they used the voices of the real people.
One of the films we're going to talk
about to see them react, because they can't believe it themselves. Like when they look at photos of back in the day, they're like, how the fuck did we buy this? Right?
To give them their due, I mean, you can totally see how the cognitive dissonance worked, because some of the photos you look at him, he's just a tall. I mean, think about when we were in college. Everyone develops in different ways, and you've always got that guy who sort of like looks much older and and sounds much older.
That's true.
So
but it's
I
one
don't
of
think
those things that when someone points it out to you, it just seems so obvious. But yes, prior to that, you can, in those environments, I was thinking about that as well when we were, say, on college or something. If at that, especially that period of your development where you're just kind of really, you go with almost anything, right? Almost anything happens at that age, you're just kind of
roll with it.
All right, yeah.
It's not going to be your number one priority, is it? Like your number one priority is all the other things. But also just he had a reason for everything, and and the way that he must have convinced himself that he could do this was just that, well, why would anyone think anything else? Why would they?
Right.
I mean, why would they be like, oh, that guy's a bit suspicious? It's like, well, what would be his, other than being a sort of paedophile or something, or or a sort of pervert, There's no real reason for him. So his reason for wanting to do it, which is because he he wanted to be a nurse, and he didn't that's the confusing bit. But he says he got ill when he was in Dundee University the first time, when he got through to when he was 17, 18, which I don't understand. And I meant to look that up. I thought, where's his A levels? And he was, he was doing this at the same time we were at secondary school. So I don't understand that. How come he went to?
The thing is, he
the
crossed
timings,
the threshold, the age threshold, where apparently you can't go to medical school anymore, right? So you had to go back but what I quite liked about this as well was the fact that as they were going along, they started looking at it from different perspectives and things you hadn't thought about, and that was quite interesting to see people on screen kind of processing the story as they heard it. I thought that was done quite well, and it turns out as one of the reveals, I suppose, is the guy who directed it was actually one of the guys who was in school, which is something we don't know, and I thought that was kind of interesting as well.
That was really interesting, because I don't think you would have got anywhere near that perspective if he hadn't have gone to the school. No, because he did examine.
Do you remember the story breaking? Did you say?
Yeah, no, I do. I not very well, but one of the first, because that was the second time I watched it, having not realised I had watched it already. Anyway, but when I did watch it the first time, I recognised the breaking news element, and I remember having, it was one of those brief stories, really, like a brief scandal that you kind of forget, it was like, but everyone kind of thought the same thing. Well, how did he manage to do that? And that was it. But for them, it was a full lived experience, which was. But yeah, the thing I loved about it was just how, in fact, because he kept his identity secret through the documentary, possibly to try and get a nursing degree. But as we well know, he then got an acting job in Saltburn, and has but
right.
Everyone was talking about him having plastic surgery. Do you remember that? So
yes.
So he's
so that's why he doesn't look anything like
if Barry Keoghan gets a nursing degree, we'll know for sure. Anyway, but
and he was actually Richard E. Grant.
The thing that I thought was sort of had a lot of pathos is the word, I think, or is it bathos? I always forget what the difference between the two is. But is that he kind of this lost soul who didn't get his chance, and he's seen walking around the town and stuff, but he didn't realize that maybe that he actually affected everyone else's life a lot of them in a really positive way, and
it was interesting, because it's interesting how throughout the film, if you focus on it, he becomes almost like like you said, this epochal figure that changed so many different lives, and then he just kind of pull back, and then he's just this lonely guy pottering around town. It's interesting because you think, oh, that's interesting. If you pull back, and then if you change focus and then swoop down on someone else, maybe they have their own really fascinating, weird story at one point in their lives, right? And but then if you saw that, if you didn't know this story and you just saw that guy pottering around town, you would have no idea that he was the center of this story, right?
But he did also just he did affect everyone's life. There's only one bit in it that because obviously he was a 32-year-old man pretending to be a 16-year-old kid, And the one thing that kind of made everyone think, oh, you know, all his classmates think, you know, was that he kissed. They showed the school play back, and he but I don't know that he actually did kiss her, because he's kind of going like that, so he could have not, but he did go in for a second one. So, but
what's kind of interesting about that as well, I thought, was this film maybe almost in a without realizing it does it brings up kind of interesting questions. So, for instance, they mentioned that thing about the kiss in the school play, and it's more just you know, it's like comic relief, right? Almost, it's like a funny thing. Oh, you didn't want to kiss me, blah blah blah, and you know, and he was. But then when they come round to it again in this new context of there was this older guy and stuff, it's interesting because there's no reason for it to really, but it takes on a slightly darker tone, right? Because because it's different now that you know that it's an older man and it's of age, so it's not like illegal or anything like that. But what's interesting is it's interesting how so the girl he's kissing, she hadn't thought, and she knows the story. She knows, but it's only when they play it back and she watches it and the kiss goes on a little bit longer or whatever, then she thinks she turns to the camera and she goes, "Oh, I feel a bit icky now," or whatever. And I'm thinking, well, that's interesting. She actually didn't have any trauma about that until the filmmakers gave her one. And I thought that's kind of interesting. You just actually created something that wasn't a problem before.
But under the lens of scrutiny by others, it's become.
And it's interesting because it shows how. And again, I'm not tarring everyone in the same brush or saying, but it's interesting how sometimes people do. You know, when revelations come out about something, sometimes, of course, people come forward, and that empowers other people to come forward. You know, you're talking about like the Weinstein trial or something like that, and that's a good thing. But then sometimes it's also the case where revelations, and then someone like gets angry where they weren't angry before because they've been made to feel stupid. Or something like that. Or they've been made to feel duped, and then they decide, "Oh, I'm going to get angry about that." And you think, well, prior to that, you weren't, right? So that's kind of interesting. I thought that was another thing the film kind of raised.
That happens on a smaller scale all the time, though, doesn't it? Where people kind of, you know, people aren't angry about something until it's scrutinized by other people, and it's it doesn't even have to be that everyone says to them, "That's outrageous, how could you let that person do that," or something like that. It can just be the very fact of being observed can make you feel so self-conscious that you then change your you know, your whole way of the way even the way you physically feel about something can be altered by other people's observation. But the one thing I wanted to say was just as well about how like the if that is the word, the bathos moment, I don't know, where you think that like we all is the idea of being able to redo your life, I think, was the thing that. So he, you know, there's one person who became a pharmacist off the back of him. The other person, who was called Brian McKinnon in the class, he sort of nurtured his musical taste and profoundly affected, because there was a very schoolish thing, wasn't it? Because he was called 2 Unlimited before that. That's right. He was into techno, which we'll get onto later. What are you listening to? What's your favourite techno band? 2 Unlimited. And then he was called that from then on. And then he profoundly.
But that little section where they talk about the music is quite good, because it's a nice little pocket-sized kind of it kind of really like how important finding your music and your identity is and stuff at that age, right? that spoke to me. That bit.
Yeah, well, you did that to me, and we'll talk about that later. But you could be you probably were Brian McKinnon, weren't you? Anyway, but anyway, so that's all I was just thinking was how because of the way you don't get second chances a lot of the time in life,
right?
Having that kind of that moment where you just go, actually, I'm gonna do it again with the benefit of hindsight. And he did all this stuff. It was like almost like an advert for how a adult mentor in a school who's pretending to be a kid could be a really good thing, because he helped the kid who was most bullied, racially segregated. He helped the kid who was also bullied. He helped the girl not get into a massive fight with some hooligans. All these things he did because he was actually an adult and had.
It's interesting though. He didn't help himself.
No, he didn't help himself.
He helped these other people, but ultimately it ended up exactly the same for him.
Yeah. In the end, he was the only one he tricked in a way. But yeah.
Right.
But yeah,
it's interesting. It's an interesting little doc. I think not like a masterpiece or anything, but just a quietly, as I was watching it, it wears itself quite lightly, even though when it gets dark. But then I've thought about it more than I thought I would after seeing it. There's quite a lot of interesting little. Plus, the guy who ended up becoming a pharmacist has the loveliest voice in the world you could listen to all day.
Yeah,
it's just a lovely voice.
That story in particular was gorgeous. Just the way, his life could have been so different, and because it had, Brandon Lee in it. We forgot to mention he's called Brandon Lee.
Oh yeah. Well, the other thing as well, now that again, because it's just the other thing as well that's interesting is, because sometimes you think, if you ever have this fantasy idea of going back to school and you're thinking, because this time I would know how to be more cool, and I know how to, if you were going to be predatory about it, I'd know how to take advantage of teenagers, and kind of how how to decide really, I'd be the king of the school, I'd be the big man on campus and all that, whatever. It's quite interesting though. But his experiences, when they ask him what was it like, it's like, it's fucking horrible. It's horrible being back amongst because that's the thing you forget about your teenage years when people look back at roads. I think that was probably the most miserable part of my life. I've been so much happier since. I mean, I had great times obviously with you and stuff, but just in terms of feeling comfortable in your own skin.
Did
so much more comfortable now than when I was.
I mean, but this is the thing though. Did he or because he kept saying that, but then it really did seem like he did have a really good time. But I do believe it. I do think I believe him, but a lot of the classmates didn't believe him. So I don't know.
Because I don't think I would. It would be.
I can understand. Well, he had lots of. He wasn't 15, so he had lots of concerns hanging over him. Like how long can I sustain this for? I mean, that was part of why he got out. But yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah.
That brings us smoothly. Nice segue into Shin Kamen Rider.
Yeah. Talking of false identities.
Hey.
The masks we wear and
motorbike. Oh man. He drove a car. Though.
Yeah, but he did have a
grasshopper.
Grass. I think it's
So you saw this, I'm guessing, as Shin Masked Rider, right?
On Amazon. Yeah.
Right. Kind of interesting that they've. It's almost. I don't know why they've bothered. Like, if you're going to keep the Shin, the Japanese for new, and Rider is Rider, why even bother changing Kamen to just go with Shin Kamen Rider, right? But.
It doesn't feel like it. Yeah, it's true.
Right. So a few episodes ago, we talked Shin Ultraman, right? And so this, we're in similar territory in so much as a beloved franchise going back, in this case, to the 70s, right? This is actually the 50th anniversary film reboot. For a start, so it doesn't really need a reboot because Kamen Rider is doing quite nicely on television at the moment, thank you. Anyway, there's like the most recent show is Kamen Rider Black Sun, which is getting, I haven't seen it, but getting very, very good notices. And so I'm not quite sure. It's like a reboot that no one really needed because it's already, you know, has quite a healthy life. But anyway, how familiar were you with Kamen Rider?
Not well. I'd heard of it, but I've not been into it at all.
Right.
No.
Okay.
No, we don't know about the universe at all.
So I just recently, oddly enough, finished watching the entire run of the original Kamen Rider series from 1972, 73, 72, somewhere around there. And it's 98 episodes long, so it took me a while. But I watched the whole thing. And
Does it have a story arc, or is it just episodic? One after another, like a daytime TV type. It's
a Monster of the Week show.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, basically Kamen Rider Takashi Hongo is there's an organization called Shocker, and the original series they are actually Nazi affiliated. And they do the Heil salute and everything. But basically, they're just evil, right? They're just an evil organization that turn people into these hybrid, like cyborg-like organisms, usually based on insects and animals, right? So in the original series, the variety of monsters they came up with is just it's fucking great. You got like crab monsters and cockroach monsters, and towards the end of the series they go mental and they start doing these hybrid, like half like crocodile, half ostrich or something. So there's like a new monster suit like every week, right? So the creativity on display in the original series is actually quite impressive that they pumped this out every week for like 98 weeks straight. The amount of fucking just monster costumes they have to make, it just
foam latex, whatever it is.
And then so the main character was kidnapped by Shocker, and they were halfway through. So this is the one thing I can't quite figure out yet, because like I said,
hang on a second. Did you ever think like, oh wait, I see that lobster tail from the lobster guy from episode 1. They've done a hybrid of, you grab the lobster tail and they've got,
No, to be fair, they've done a pretty good job of each one seemed quite... I know what you mean, because sometimes you see reused suits, like... But no, I suppose if you really knew, if you were, like, really into it and you took screenshots and, you could probably find, I'm sure they did do that, but as a casual viewer, it's no, you don't feel... I mean, the show is repetitive in so much as it's basically Kamen Rider fighting people in monster suits and doing kick and all that. It's repetitive in that way, but in terms of the monsters, no, it's quite imaginative and refreshing as you go. You don't feel like, no, this again, surprisingly. But so so after Kamen Rider, there's a whole bunch of other Kamen Riders. There's been Kamen Riders since the 70s. So there's loads of different series, and there's loads of different... Each Kamen Rider has his own kind of spin. There's like a Kamen Rider Amazon, which is all like jungle animals and things like that. And there's all sorts of different... And I'm planning to watch, so I'm quite looking forward to, watching the whole thing eventually. So in the original series, they were going to turn him into a grasshopper cyborg. That's what Kamen Rider is. He has grasshopper powers, right? And everyone who knows Kamen Rider knows he's a grasshopper, right? But what I can't figure out is, now that I've watched the entire first series, I know for a fact that at no point does anyone actually refer to him as a grasshopper. and they never say you're a grasshopper, you're half grasshopper. So I don't know if that's something that in later series is a reveal, or if in the publicity for the original series when it was on TV, they mentioned that and kids just knew.
Well, I mean,
or if it's like a surprise reveal from another series, I don't know. But they never say in the original series he's a grasshopper.
80s and 70s things used to have that though a lot, didn't they? Where it was, the A-Team. If you watched an episode of the A-Team, it would do the intro and then it would launch straight into it.
Right.
Teen, Airwolf, similar, all those things.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't necessarily you would be in it, so they didn't have to kind of.
Right. What I mean is they don't like at the beginning of the show when they do
there's nothing like that.
Yeah. They never actually say made from a grasshopper.
Yeah.
At least they haven't yet. So maybe they do in like Kamen Rider. I don't know what the next one is. Kamen Rider Black, Kamen Rider V3, Kamen Rider. There's fucking loads of them, right? And they're still ongoing. But so this film, Shin Kamen Rider, is kind of going supposedly going back to the source of but it's actually pretty different because now Shocker, which they've given an acronym to, this annoyed me that now Shocker is now stands for Sustainable Happiness Organisms with Computation Knowledge Embedded Remodeling.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna fuck right off. No, they're just Shocker because it sounds cool. That's it, Shocker. So I find that quite irritating for a start. But so now it's an AI, right? Shocker is some sort of AI villain.
Yeah.
And
it was a bit vague that, but
and they Kamen Rider and all the other monsters use prana. They keep using this phrase prana. Yeah. Which I guess is just life force or something.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Yeah. I mean, but they do. It's like an origin story. This one, though. So.
Yes. So I'm assuming they're hoping for sequel. But like I said, it just seems like I don't understand. Like if this series had lied dormant for a long time. But the thing is, it's ongoing. There's already like a new.
Well, you don't think that they got to doing the film and that someone pointed out that they'd never mentioned that he was a grasshopper. They said, "Well, why don't we do that? Put it in a."
But they don't.
They do.
Do they mention?
I think they do. I think they do. Yeah.
Okay. So this is Sosuke Ikematsu plays Takeshi Hongo. He's taking it quite seriously, isn't he? He's quite thesping this grasshopper cyborg.
Yeah. Well, he's always crying, isn't he?
Yeah. He doesn't like killing. Right?
Yeah.
That's his thing.
He has a little cry after.
Yeah, he's always. I don't necessarily, but I was surprised how seriously he's taking it.
Yeah, he's always really intense and don't talk to me. Like Christian Bale or something.
Yeah, and then Tasuko Emoto plays like the Kamen Rider 2. So that's the other thing. Famously in the first series, the guy who played Kamen Rider, Hiroshi Fujioka, insisted on doing his own stunts, and he broke his leg. And so then they got another guy in to play Kamen Rider 2. And then they made this nonsense about saying, the original Kamen Rider is now off fighting Shocker in Europe or something like that. And then halfway through the series, he came back. But then sometimes they do. So that's why there's the Kamen Rider 1-2 thing. It's like a homage to that.
Yeah.
And it seems at the end of the film that they're setting it up that he'll be the Kamen Rider in the next film.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, no, there was two of them. Oh, okay, yeah, maybe. I can't remember the ending.
And then and the other thing they added to this version is there's a couple of shadowy government types, right? One played by Takei Saito, the guy who played Ultraman, right? In the Shin Ultraman.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, he was. So that's not the original series. And then the other thing that isn't in the original series is Minami Hanabe plays the daughter of the original guy who created the technology, right? As played by Shinya Tsukamoto of Tetsuo fame.
I haven't seen. Oh yeah, I have seen Tetsuo. Yeah. Oh, that was a long time ago. Goodness me. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's his daughter, but turns out to be a robot as well, and he kind of has to protect her, but she's also not. I don't know. I get the feeling here I got that feeling that the filmmakers were like, someone told them, like, yeah, we don't do that anymore. We don't do that kind of simpering female always has to be rescued by the hero kind of thing. And they're like, oh yeah, okay. But they don't really understand it. Yeah. So they make her
independent-ish,
but not that much.
Yeah.
So that's weird.
Well, the other thing is the sinister, shadowy government people, don't they? They sort of say that was vague. They say they're going to help or something, but then they just seem to appear and not do anything.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah. You're there now, are you?
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not the most. I mean, it's not very good, is it? Shin Kamen, right?
I was wondering when you were going to say whether you're going to say, well, I loved it. What did you think? Holding my breath. I mean, I didn't. It was really fucking long. What was it? 2 hours and
2 hours, yeah.
Something. And I watched it with my son Hollis, and he did his first movie walkout.
I was wondering how he
couldn't cope anymore by the end. It was like, it's just so long and boring. They just didn't. They didn't. They didn't move. There wasn't much of a plot, and they didn't move it on very well. So it was like.
Well, the other weird thing as well is he's this kind of weird, sensitive, pacifist Kamen Rider. But then at the same time, they've decided when he punches people, they're going to have loads of blood squibs. Yeah. Like gratuitous amounts of blood squibs. But afterwards, he's going to take his helmet off and cry a bit. It's like, what's the
okay.
Choose a tone, right? Choose a lane.
Yeah.
Smoking causes coughing then, right?
Yeah.
So this is our brilliant segue, because this is kind of a tokusatsu parody to a certain extent. French film by
Quentin Dupieux.
Who is not now, but used to be more famous as being Mr. Oizo, right? Do you remember Flat Beat?
I'll have a look at him now.
Mr. Oizo, he had a hit with that Flat Beat dance music thing, and he did the video for it as well. It was like a head-banging puppet driving a car. Flat Eric.
Oh yeah, Flat Eric.
Yeah. So that's him. Mr. Oizo, that's the...
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's pretty weird.
But he's been directing for a while. Now he's famous for doing quite quirky, weird films. There's one called Rubber. I was familiar. He did back in 2010, which was just like a tire rolling around, like a big tire rolling around, and I didn't much like that. But then the one people seem to say is brilliant, Deerskin. Did you see Deerskin?
No, I haven't seen any of his films. No.
And then he did another one called Mandibles. Apparently, that's quite. I haven't seen Deerskin, so this is the first of his films I'd seen since Rubber, actually, which I didn't like. Rubber was a little bit too deliberately quirky for my liking.
Okay.
And this kind of slightly falls into the same category, although I don't know what. So, do you want to set it up?
Well, it's yeah. If you were to look at the trailer, you would think it was a sort of almost Troma TV style or Troma, style kind of gore comedy about like quirky gore comedy about some Power Ranger types that are sponsored by the tobacco industry. I don't know who are basically
they're anti-smoking, right?
are they anti? No, they're anti-smoking themselves. But I don't know what. Well, it doesn't really cover that. But I thought from the trailer when I first watched it that they were tobacco company sponsored. But maybe I just didn't pay attention enough. Anyway, they are the 5 elements of tobacco: nicotine, benzene. I can't remember the other poisonous chemicals that are in tobacco, but they're all of the bad chemicals in tobacco, and they combine forces to give people horrible cancer, or give their foes, I mean the creatures, horrible cancer, in the same way that Power Rangers and all the rest of them do. Yeah, I thought it was just going to be a kind of silly gore fest. And then it turns out it's really much more of a French existential comedy, I suppose.
Yeah, more than anything else, it seems to me as if it's like scraps of ideas for like sketches that they couldn't fill out.
Yeah.
So what can we all shoot around this one lake location? And then they just kind of string it together. So yeah, so the plot is supposed to be this tobacco force are sent on a retreat, right? Like a team bonding retreat.
Yeah.
Because they have some evil guy called Lizardine is going to blow up the planet or something. And then while they're there, it goes off on different tangents as like
they start telling scary stories around the campfire, and then it's just a series of vignette style stories.
Yeah, that's it. Really, there's
segue off to...
and there's weird little things like the bunker they're staying in has a refrigerator with an entire convenience store inside it, and stuff like that, and the guy in charge of them is like this drooling rat creature, right? Who a couple of the female members of the tobacco force, he seems irresistible to women, right?
It's a Serge Gainsbourg type, isn't it?
yeah, exactly, yeah. But it's funny. So it's an odd one. Nothing in this film was I suppose the nearest that it got to kind of funny for me is there's the story about the guy stuck in the wood chipper. I thought that was quite funny to start with. It goes on a bit too long when it's just a mouth and a bucket of guts. But that was quite funny. But other than that, none of it was that hilarious. But I don't know. I also had even though it could be annoyingly trying too hard to be quirky, I had a certain amount of goodwill towards this film a little bit.
Yeah.
How did you get on with it?
I remember thinking, because it wasn't hilarious or anything like that. And I agree with what you said, but it was one of the Guardian reviews of Saltburn described it when I was scrabbling around trying to work out why people liked it. Described Saltburn as a vibes forward first film, vibes forward first film or something, as in like you don't understand. In other words, if you have criticism of it, you're not allowed because it's a vibes forward film, and that it's much more. You just don't understand it. It's about vibes, and it's vibes forward. And it was basically it's sort of like, I suppose
that's like an alien language. I'm only barely understanding what that means.
We might describe something, you and I, a film, for example, the David Cronenberg film,
Crimes of the Future.
Crimes of the Future, in a similar sense, but without those words at all. But where you're talking about the atmosphere, the general atmosphere, and the general kind of the characters and the ethos and the whole universe of that film.
I think what you're trying to say, Robin, is
a vibe forward. Anyway, if you were to describe this film as a vibes forward film,
I would never ever do. I would rather shoot myself in the head rather than do that.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you could call it something like that if you were a Guardian reporter. So it's it's kind of it's much more about the spending some time with these people and then wandering off in different directions. And that was it was enjoyable. The overall aesthetic of the weird choices of having 80s sort of paraphernalia, 80s monitors and 80s Jeep and various 80s villain and stuff like that, and then also having mobile phones and things like that. A bit like the Brady Bunch, the original Brady Bunch was sort of like that, had this juxtaposition of the 70s and the 90s, didn't it? I suppose it was.
You mean the 90s Brady Bunch?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually quite a good looking. Like you can tell, like they've taken care to make it look.
It looked hard to make
through in a really good way. But so vibes forward. I feel as if nowadays actually that's something that you get in a lot of movies and maybe music as well. There's this where people are happy to enjoy a mood.
You can't think of a word other than vibes forward now.
Vibes forward, and almost like that's enough. If you see what I mean, like, actually, it doesn't matter that it's particularly hilarious or clever or something. We just enjoy, and rarely does that kind of work. That's not enough for me. But I could, if someone said to me, I really love smoking causes coughing. It's like it's like a film I've watched again and again or something. I would kind of understand it. I wouldn't watch it again and again and again. No. But I can kind of understand why someone. I can see like a bunch of teenagers or something finding this film and kind of really kind of going for it. Vibes forward. What I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm sorry to have ruined it for you. Well, I had to pass that disease on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much more I have to say about it.
No. It was enjoyable. I think I would have probably enjoyed it more on a sort of sunny day, maybe. But yeah, it's sort of like Fuck it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Stupid phrase.
So we stop saying that.
Yeah, let's move on.
Reality,
okay, yeah. This is a very sparse film that was originally a play, and it's directed by Tina Satter, who directed the play. I can't remember what the play was called, can you?
Is This a Room?
Yeah, so it's about Reality Winner, the whistleblower, who I guess is more famous in America than Britain.
Yeah, I think so. I wasn't overly... And plus, as well, I would say, if you're interested in seeing this film, it actually... I thought this worked pretty well, but I reckon this film would work even better if you totally didn't know anything. If you don't know who a Reality Winner is, or you've never heard of her, I would say watch it before you listen to us talk about it, because we'll probably spoil it a little bit. Because even though it's not, I don't think it's designed in that way. I don't think it's not a film that's supposed to be like a shock reveal or anything. But But if you do go into it totally blind, I think it probably would make the experience better.
It probably works better. It's I had a vague idea of who she was, but I had known some about her at the time, but not. She's dropped off my consciousness.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many stories now, aren't there?
Yeah.
But, so here we go. Spoilers begin here. So for those who don't know, Reality Winner, for that was her name. Very well played by Sydney Sweeney in this film, I have to say. I thought her performance was actually excellent. So she was a contractor, ex-Air Force contractor for the military who spoke a number of languages, Farsi, Pashto, and what's the other one? Daga? Is that?
I've forgotten the name of it. Yeah.
Anyway, and so basically, she was the whistleblower for potential Russian interference in the 2016 election, right?
She's a whistleblower. Yeah. Anyway.
A whistleblower. Yes. Yeah. So the film plays out basically. So what they've done as well is it's kind of interesting. What they've done is they've taken the audio. So basically, she was approached by federal agents right at home, and basically did a home interrogation to get to and search her house and everything. And they had an audio recording of it, right? So they've used the transcript of the audio recording, and from what I can tell, they've followed it pretty closely, right? I don't think there's any.
They had to cut stuff out, but they didn't.
There's redacted bits, right? Which are actually quite well done.
It's not just that. I mean, as in just lots of rambling.
Yes, but what I mean, they haven't added anything. They haven't added anything, apart from the visual component. So the all the dialogue is ad verbatim, right? From the actual kind of arrest and interrogation, and so it's like a dramatization of that. Josh Hamilton and Marchant Davis play the two FBI agents, and that's what the film is basically. And I mentioned the redacted moments as well. I quite liked how, so when you hit the redacted bit in the story, she just kind of disappears from the screen and then pops back in. I thought that was quite an effective.
Yeah, that was quite good. It was frustrating as well, though. But these things are supposed to be. Yeah, exactly.
But it's interesting because I think since the film's come out, it's one of those strange things where all the stuff that is so-called redacted, you can just go online and find it.
Yeah,
it's not a secret anymore. But I like that. I like that little element where things suddenly, because it lends the film this slightly. It's an increasingly surreal kind of paranoid worldview, I thought, and that helps to, because it almost feels like, parts of it feel almost like a drug trip film or something like that. And then as it's kind of revealed what the secret is and everything like that, it does take you into a kind of, I don't know. I thought it was a really interesting way to tell this story. And it makes an interesting case for, how can I say, the way that it tells the story, and then when you eventually find out what she's done, it's interesting that it takes you into the realm of wow, because she did time, right? She did time.
She did the longest prison sentence, or she got sentenced the longest prison sentence of any whistleblower.
So it does a good job, I think, of like, in a way, like, kind of beyond. It goes beyond partisan politics, because people would argue back and forth. Well, she deserves it, and other people will know she's a whistleblower. Yeah, but. But what I mean is they go beyond that into just showing how absurd, to a surreal degree, you go from this to ending up doing an extended time. Like, it almost seems like that can't be. Do you know what I mean? And the way they build it in that way, I thought that was quite well done. So
because it didn't. I agree, because I wasn't sure what, whether it was a bit bland in a way, but it's true that they because they didn't go into like the thing she leaked, and I think the reason why they did it that way was the thing that she leaked, number one, didn't have a massive impact, and then also wasn't that big a story, so in a way she was kind of naive on many different fronts, it seems, and it definitely does seem like she was made a scapegoat. There was other whistleblowers who, I think what someone was saying, I did a lot of research on this one, because the thing I found frustrating about it was the sort of, I feared that it was sort of like a sort of a Democrat kind of puff piece. That was what I was worried about, like, that I was watching, because it was sort of like, but I think you're right in that it has a narrow focus, which is on that feeling of being of being just coming home and being interrogated and stuff like that, and it did allude to various things, but it didn't ever, so it didn't do what you would expect from a film about a whistleblower, where there's this big shock moment where she sees the paper, the dossier, and she's like, oh, this has to get out, the thing she was, the voter, phishing scams to try to reveal, try to hack into voter. I don't even think they did hack into voter things, so it's really not actually that big a deal.
No. But like you said, you could almost take away and replace it with something else, because it's not about that. It's about that encroaching kind of paranoia, and I can even imagine, a rabid kind of a Fox watching Tucker Carlson MAGA kind of person kind of enjoying the film, regardless of their thoughts on reality winner,
her being like a traitor sort of thing.
As a kind of paranoid film.
Because I think the other thing was that I was going to say, I forgot it. It's that she's, she wasn't read her Miranda rights, was she? So that was, again, they didn't explicitly show that, or they showed it, but they didn't. It was there, them saying we could just have a chat, that sort of thing, but that actually was part of the case and stuff like that.
Well, what's interesting about it, we were talking about this earlier when we were talking about My Old School, like, if you wrote this fictionally, you wouldn't believe it. It's funny, I'm glad they set up from the beginning the transcript thing, because some of the things that the two agents say, or the way they say them, you would think, oh, this is badly written dialogue if you didn't know it was real, right? Like, some of the ways they keep insisting, like, things like, do you want to sit?
Yeah.
Do you want to sit, or do you want to... Like, the way they kept harping on certain things seemed very... If it was... No one would write that in a fictional film. It just would.
No, they would be told to keep to the action. But it was there was some sort of, because it was real, that's where you could really get into the film. And I think, like you say about anyone of any political persuasion, I could definitely see how people on the right, could get frustrated with. There's lots of, after having watched it, there's documentaries about Reality Winner. She's got a TV series coming up apparently, or something like that. It's a bit like kind of a bit of a darling of the kind of Democrat sort of thing. But I think on the other hand, where it's interesting is just how interrogations as well. That their methods were kind of, you know, you were definitely in there, like you were fully in that interrogation. As you,
Yeah,
it's very easy to put yourself in her shoes, you know, and
yeah.
kind
They're
of
almost
get
aggressively polite, aren't they?
yes, exactly, and kind of you knew that a push was going to come, and then yet when
Right.
with all the inevitability that you couldn't do anything about it anyway, even if it did come, and then
Yeah.
a push would come, a little push, just a nudge. And you go, oh, that's just a nudge. I don't have the, and by the time, you know, it actually gets to a full push, you know, to sort of reveal everything, you're so worn down by that as a viewer. You're kind
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
because yeah,
And the other thing as well that plays out interestingly is that because you know it's the way it went down. It's fascinating that at no point
hmm,
does she ever ask, "Look, what's this all about?"
hmm.
Like that would be screenwriting 101. At some point,
Yeah, well,
she would ask,
She sort of
"Can you
did.
just tell me what this is all about?" or something like that,
Yeah.
right? But she never actually.
Well, she sort of did, but well, the thing is, so then there's this research I did around it, you know, and trying to
Mm,
work out what actually happened because number one, the whole, you know, the Russiagate thing was just an absolute disaster. I mean, you know, in terms of you could definitely argue that it led to the January, what was it, January 16th, uh,
six.
because it gave Trump unbelievable power. That balls up, you know, with the Robert Mueller
Mm,
investigation, and I read I read an entire um paper on it for this because I went down a rabbit hole on this particular film. I went down a rabbit hole because I get very obsessed with, you know, that type of thing. You're like, where does the truth actually lie? Like, you know,
right.
I mean, because the Democrats are still banging on about that there was Russian interference and the, yeah,
Right. Right.
but what there may have been some collusion, you know, but there was the Mueller investigation found nothing.
Mm,
But it's just the fact that what was the only thing that was really obvious that I was aware of, and that it was similar with Jeremy Corbyn and Bernie Sanders as well, was just how much collusion between the press and the, you know, and how a story can just be kept on the agenda, um, you know, day in, day out, nothing else, you know, every
mm,
single aspect of it poured over. And then when it's like the investigation, so all the Robert Mueller was their man, like the Democrats' man, you know, it was like, you know, as far as I know, like, it was like, yeah, you know, when he was going to deliver the verdict, it was like,
mm.
oh yeah, you know, and I remember Trump being all, you know, as far as I remember anyway, Trump was all against Mueller. Obviously, we're not in America, so we went head
We're
first
not
into it.
bombarded by it all the
Yeah,
time.
but
No.
as far as I remember, anyway, but the thing that was obvious was just the press was just, you know, those obviously not Fox News and stuff. Fox News was all about, you know, how you know, it was all a lie and everything. You know, these are all lies, and they
Yeah,
were
they
like,
were probably at the same time. They were probably they were probably going on about some fucking Hunter Biden scandal that no one else has ever heard of
yeah,
outside of
but
that sphere, right?
but that's the thing though. But you could see how the majority of the press, because Trump is this weird figure where he's just this, he's sort of the same but different, you know, he's the
Mm,
same corruption and bullshit, but like, but he's just so much more of a self-interested,
yeah,
vain glorious guy that he's
yeah,
just distasteful for them because he just
yeah.
you know, gives away the game. So
Well, the thing is, as well, is I think that as sometimes people overlook is that he's, as much as he is problematic, he's also he's a victim more than he is the cause of
Yeah,
something.
of course.
Right?
Yeah.
When you've got him even in the running, there's something already wrong.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He's their fault. They created him, by being by peddling. Because in a way, especially, I mean, he's a creation of Fox News, isn't he? But because they go for the hard line kind of uh, you know demonizing of different groups. Excuse me. Yeah, demonizing of different groups, and all their viewers are just get really frustrated with the Republicans for not telling it how it is, and Donald Trump came along and told it how it is, as in was as flat out sort of nasty as they wanted someone to be. And I think that's amongst all of this, they thought the sort of the establishment basically of America thought they could get away with what they were always getting away with, which was just painting the narrative of the way they wanted to shape it. But Donald Trump ironically created this situation where that just can't happen. It's really bizarre in a way, like so he is completely invincible, and then she, reality winner, just got frustrated with one little thing that would, that ended up being a damp squib, and paid a really heavy price. But the other thing is the Intercept, so there's some the Intercept fucked her over completely. So there is some, and it's alluded to again in the film, like in the prosecution case, it said that like she had all this stuff in her diary about loving Osama bin Laden's or whatever, or praise for various Taliban leaders and stuff. I don't know what the truth of that is. Can't find anything about that. Then there's this whole thing about how she may have, the prosecution, which is the state, the government, said that that she had maybe not leaked anything before, but had already tried to leak something or something like that, had already done some really dodgy stuff with documents, which they did allude to in that but again, yeah, it seemed to softly play that so that she was more of a kind of victim than maybe she was, from the state's point of view, she could have been more of an active participant. But the reality of it looks like, but again, it's really hard to know, that she was set up, as a fall guy for, almost like throwing red meat to the Republicans in a way, by giving her such a stiff sentence and stuff. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, there's no doubt, but again, like we said, as interesting as all this is, and that's that's a good thing that a film can send you off to look up all this stuff. But like we said, it almost doesn't matter what your evenings are, because the film works almost like a nightmare film or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good film in that sense. It's just that it then does make you think, well, all this stuff is in there, but it's not, like I say, what the actual leak isn't clear in the film, and what, all this stuff is not, that went around it is not clear. Because, yeah, again, the Intercept, I didn't realise that she was actually, they were around her house, and the article hadn't even been published. So it was the Intercept that handed the thing to the NSA, handed the document and said, is there any comment on that? Which is standard practice, but they'd given the document as it was, as she had given it to them. They handed the physical document to the NSA, the Intercept did, and that gave away where it came from, and therefore Yeah. So yeah, all that stuff not in the film, but
no, because vibes forward, right?
it's a vibes forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yes, let's do this.
I spat quite a lot in my hands.
Yeah,
but
that's what happens.
Yeah, vibes forward.
Yes, let's do this.
Get your vibes forward.
Original. Rotterdam Terracore. Anyway, unfortunately, we're not actually talking about that as much as we'd hoped, right? So this is Hardcore Never Dies.
Yep.
Is our last film, which is a film I didn't know anything about really until I kind of stumbled across it, and it was what seemed to be a film about gabba, right? Set in the this is a Dutch film directed by Jim Taihutu. And so I have it. So the thing with gabba is I wouldn't say I'm necessarily like a huge, gabba fan. I've never been to the Terror Dome. I've never been to, a gabba warehouse rave or anything like that. But so this is actually you figure very heavily in my love is too strong, but my affection towards gabba, I think, because I think you would have been the first person who ever played me a gabba record.
Did I play you one of my records today? I've only got the two anyway.
Well, that's probably the one you played me, right? Yeah. But the thing was, so we won't name names or anything like that. But I think that when when we first met, you had another bunch of friends as well who, they were very much into dance music scene and DJing and in fact, when the first time I ever got massively high was going around to someone's house and you all took turns mixing. I didn't, because I knew I would just end up scratching people's records and pissing people off. So I just enjoyed myself saying me heap big Indian chief. But I think we've talked about that.
We might have. Very memorable. We circled back to the,
memorable night of nights. But what I was going to, just to finish the story. So, and within that kind of world at the time, I think there's I don't know if this is still the case, but certainly at that time, there was this kind of snobbery around what was the acceptable dance music, what was cool and what wasn't, and stuff like that, right? And it was, to a certain extent, I probably partook in that. But the thing is, I remember people thinking that gabba was just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking, it's just beneath contempt, right? Apart from in certain pockets, like, certain scenes in Rotterdam and places like that, where there's always been a very niche kind of hardcore never dies, happy hardcore as well, right? Just slightly different thing, but there's people who just fucking love that stuff till the day they die, right? And I always had a certain, after you played me, it's funny, it was almost like when the other guys were off somewhere, it was like we were naughty or something. You were like, hey, this is actually, don't tell the other guys I played you this or something. And you played me like a gabba track. And I immediately was like, this is actually, this is kind of cool. I like this. This is, yeah. And so it was just that kind of like, it was a little bit of a, I remember it was, I don't know, it became like a little thing for us, I think, like the fact that you liked Gabba and I liked Gabba. Again, not, we didn't go huge on it,
No,
but
it was
it was
massive.
the fact
But,
it was just like, yeah, what's wrong with this? This is fun, man.
yeah, it
like,
is. It is. Yeah. I mean,
so when I found out there was a Gabba film, I was like, oh, I gotta watch this, and I gotta watch it with Robin. I gotta talk to Robin about it because, and it turns out, unfortunately, it's not really that much about Gabba, really, is it?
But the scenes that do have big warehouse Gabba raves in them are pretty fun.
They are.
It's sort of shame that it doesn't go on for a bit longer, because I didn't.
They're the only good bits, really.
I didn't know where it like Gabba. I think I knew that it came from like Holland or somewhere, but or I thought maybe Germany, but I didn't really know the scene, you know. And so, you know, I didn't know like, everyone sort of looks like neo-Nazis and stuff like that.
And pay enormous amounts of PCP and stuff like that to dance all night to that. Right? Yeah,
it's incredible. Yeah, they were really like an army of kind of dancing.
So I'm still up for that. If there's another more full-on proper Gabba film out there, I'd still be up for watching.
Yeah. This was kind of like follow the formula of Trainspotting and things ish. You know, sort of your typical drug dealer film sort of thing. Have you done the plot yet or not? Do you want to do the plot? Or?
Well, no, it's pretty much, there's a young guy who's like he's a classical pianist, right? He's a classical pianist, a student who wants to become a classical pianist, and he's got an older brother who is a bad influence. We found out he got kicked out of the house, and he's a skinhead, Gabba loving drug dealer who's always kind of one step ahead of people he's in debt to and stuff, and then his younger brother gets sucked into that world, and that's about it. But at the very end, at least I get the feeling they were trying to push, because when he's doing the classical piano, he's got like one teacher who's trying to teach him all about technique, and there's like another guy saying like, no, you've got to feel the music, the emotion and stuff. So I get the feeling at the end when he's doing his piano recital, we're supposed to think that, well, at least that lifestyle taught him to feel or something like that, which didn't quite come off.
Definitely heavily laid that on, but you'd like him to just get onto the piano and go.
I was waiting.
I'd do basically a Gabba version. But well, the weird thing is that plot wise was he's from a poor background, but his dad really wanted him to have a really shit career.
He's not behind the classical pianist thing at all.
His parents and his mum finds the acceptance letter to the thing, and it's like, and no, what parent? So weird. It's a bit like, again, fast and loose with the plot, a bit like Saltburn, sort of like, well, we'll just doesn't matter, we'll just make sure it's enough drugs. So absolutely, from the beginning, that first scene where, I think the guy playing the brother, Jim Dedes, I think he's really good. I wish he was in a better film. His portrayal of the older brother, he's quite good. He's quite convincing. I think. But he does the whole thing to camera talking about, it's pretty much choose life. You know, it's that. And then the rest of it also felt a little bit, I thought it would go into ID territory a little bit, because there's a, like, outside the rave, there's some Christians, you know, protesting, and then also there's like some white power people like trying to recruit people, and so but I would like to see a film more about the Gabba scene and more about that stuff. I guess from my point of view, I was going to say something else, but from my point of view, I didn't actually know, I didn't know about all the. I didn't ever really consider much the whole drug dealing scene, but it was different in Wales. But even then, I never rave seemed to have lots of drugs, but at the same time lots of love and not really much violence and stuff, as far as my experience of that scene.
No, I think this is a very specific
area, or
yeah, this is a specific scene. Plus, as well, to be fair, I don't think, I mean, these people were so fucking busy dancing. I don't think they had any energy left to fight much. I don't know if there was much. The iconography is violent and all that, but I don't know if there was actually. Obviously, around the margins, you would have had the people who were got into the whole neo-Nazi side of things, and there's that side of it, right? But I think a lot of Gabba people were just looking for a good time,
go out, banging,
just get fucked up, man, and fucking dance them. Fuck yeah, man.
They became incredibly strong. The other thing I was thinking was, like, glamorizing drugs, and how these films are a trope and stuff, but because you wouldn't do, if you some, like, I was thinking, what would the same film be like with food, like if it was his brother was like mildly obese, and then he's like, you've got to try this, and then they
chocolate flare.
Yeah. Oh, and they really fucking enjoy it, and then they go on this journey together to become morbidly obese together.
See, I like the sound of this.
Yeah, I like the sound of that film.
Yeah,
but
I'm forward.
But yeah, stop it.
It's your fault. I never heard
I'm so sorry. I have nightmares this evening.
It's like a verbal tick.
Yeah, it's verbal. Yeah. Anyway, so so you can imagine, like, what the reaction to that would be. Like, yeah, choose life. I chose. Oh, yeah, because they don't tend to do. The only obese film was the recent was The Whale, or I don't know if you didn't see that. Did you? No,
I didn't. No, I'm not watching that.
But that was like a kind of mournful sorrow film, so far as I know.
No Gabba in that.
No Gabba, no glamorization of. I've never seen a glamorization of obesity film, which I want to see now. I think I should probably just do. Anyway. Yeah.
There's another scene as well where the older brother's making a spliff in a parking lot. And he just slobbers all over there when he's looking at it, thinking, that must be the wettest spliff. That's not even going to light. He was like that.
I don't remember that.
No, because of this.
Yeah.
So it's not a Gabba film. It's more of a
drug film,
crime, drama, drug. And it's not a very good one. It's actually quite boring.
Yeah, I mean, remember when we had George on, and he was talking about, like, drama and how people want to see drama, and I wholeheartedly agree. But on this occasion, you kind of the drama aspect was the thing that sort of brought the film into disrepute, because
right,
I say, because it was just because I'm training for a marathon. Oh, you don't know that? Yeah, I'm training for a marathon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, since my mum died. So I've got an exercise bike in here. That type of thing that happens as well when when a major death happens. You're kind of like, ah. Now it's just me. And so I watched it. I can't show you maybe, but I watched it on the exercise bike with the iPad.
Oh wow! You must have been.
He rides a bike a lot in as well.
Yeah.
And I have now realised that fucking Gabba. Oh my god! I'm gonna have to strategically place a few Gabba tunes in the if I have a running playlist, because fucking yes, it's so good.
I would imagine it's great for training. Yeah.
And also the other thing was I played it to Bella, and she quite liked it, so she's a Gabba editor. Anyway,
it's funny as thinking about it. I mean, we're too old now, can't keep up, but it did make me think it's a shame we didn't go to at least one Gabba gathering back.
Well, that's the thing. There wasn't any every time there was this snobbery about it in Britain and Wales and stuff. It was for people with spoilers on their cars or whatever, I guess. But that was more happy hardcore. Gabba was just not something.
I think people don't understand the difference, and they're totally different things. Happy hardcore and Gabba, I suppose. I mean, not even the beat rate. Gabba is even harder than most happy hardcore, but but it's a totally different. I mean, happy hardcore is easier to make fun. I mean, even though there's some fun happy hardcore as well, happy hardcore is a bit more easy to dismiss. I think Gabba was kind of cooler than.
I think it's like the punk of rave, isn't it? It's like the bad, and it because it was so dismissed, it was hard to, like you say, we had to, it was hard to listen to in public because
if you'd liked,
because it was seen as stupid, but definitely watching that film made me realise that it's the punk of rave, and it's actually kind of it's actually got something to it. It's got something to it that I hadn't perhaps I'd got into, but in a vacuum. I'd never seen that scene. I'd seen happy hardcore with the glove and all that, but I'd never seen these beefy. Everyone looks like a bodybuilder, and they've all, they look really aggressive, kind of like rah, and and then the music is kind of just the music that I'd heard just clicked in place that I'd never wasn't aware of, just the fact that it's sort of like rah, just go for it.
It's what they call it, cold rush, right? It's that at some point as well they mention it that they're taking ecstasy at the beginning of the film. And then towards the end, it's ketamine. It's harder, faster, louder, right?
Although ketamine, I think, is
it's not more hard. Come on.
Well, the whole thing in this album is it's this one. This one's called harder and faster.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's all hard until, and I suppose that's the thing as well. I suppose it's not sustainable. It's something you want to be in for 5-10 minutes, and then you have a sit down and a cup of tea, and you listen to something else. But to build an entire lifestyle out of it is
it's dangerous.
Yeah, like you said, it's just it's astonishing, really.
But then on the other hand,
tiring just to think about.
Yeah, on the other hand, I can because I mean nowadays it's all about fitness, isn't it? Everyone's just and I can see how you could almost reintroduce it as a without the drugs, and people would be because you got all these people doing I mean you just
come on motherfucker, take some more kill.
Overnight you would destroy the industry of ex-veterans doing what do you call it, boot camp stuff with all these kind of managerial types who need to be told off all the time because they spend their whole life doing it, and then you could just sweep that out of the window by going Gabba Gabba size. I mean, fucking hell, it's a market just there. And you wouldn't need the idea of doing it without drugs would suddenly legitimize it, I think, in a funny kind of way. But
take some wheatgrass.
yeah, I think it's Gabba's time. Yeah. Yeah. Wheatgrass, go get fucking down there, go fuck. Yes. Yeah.
Hand me your kale, man. I think this is when we make our fortune.
Yes, yeah. This is the idea. This is the one.
This is the last YouTube video we're doing, obviously, because
we're about to be
rolling in it from now on. Right.
All right. I'm just gonna.
So right, El Conde then, which is on Netflix.
Yeah.
Chilean film by
Oscar nominated, is that?
Yes.
Which is a bit of a surprise, actually, because it's
Pablo Larraín, who made a film me and Ron talked about on Magic Morning Wood called No, which was a really interesting film about Argentinian getting people to vote no in another Argentina. Sorry, was it Argentina in the 80s? I forget if it was I think it was Argentina. Yeah, that's a really good film. And he did Spencer, right, about Diana Spencer and
oh really?
Jackie. Yeah, and
have you seen that then? No. Yeah, it's not.
I haven't seen Spencer yet. Jackie I liked. I thought Jackie was good. And a whole bunch of other films. Those are the only ones of his I've seen. I've not seen like Tony Manero and Neruda and some other things. He's even done a mini series based on a Stephen King novel, Lyce's story. But he's a bit of a darling of the awards world by now, Pablo Larraín, right? Okay. What I've seen of his, I like, and I do want to go back and see some more of his stuff. However, El Conde didn't quite work for me, but we'll get there. It might have something to do with expectations. So you sound as if you didn't know what this was about at all.
I had no idea. I didn't know who he was.
Right.
So I have no knowledge of his films. And yeah, it was the last film I watched in the series of things we watched. So actually, I just watched it today, and then felt incredibly tired and didn't know whether I could do this. So I had to have a nap. But yeah, it was a.
To listen to that, put some GABBA on.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I should have done that. I didn't. Yeah. Are we doing the plot of this, or I mean, what? Just take a bunch of cake.
GABBA. It's gonna drag you down. Sorry. Anyway, vibe forward. So the setup of this film is that Chilean dictator Auguste Pinochet, and apparently it's Pinochet. So is it one of those things people had always said? I'd pronounce it Pinochet, right? And then I heard someone say on some TV show or something, it was counterintuitive that apparently it was pronounced Pinochet with a hard T. But in this film, they say Pinochet. It almost disappears off the end, doesn't it? And it's not. There's no Pinochet and there's no Pinochet. It's just Pinochet.
Oh well, in the beginning, I don't know. I didn't know. I don't know whether I heard it or not because.
Yeah, she says that the narrator. We'll get to the narrator and who the narrator is, but. So Auguste Pinochet is actually a 250-year-old vampire, French vampire, right? Who eventually became this commander who of course led the coup against Salvador Allende and all that. And so I thought, so when I first heard this idea, they're making a film with Pinochet as a ageless vampire. I thought, now this sounds. I mean, it's it's a little
what's not
on
to
the,
like.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose. Kind of dictator as blood-sucking vampire, but that's fine. Maybe go with it. But the thing is, I thought it was going to be set in that time period, but it's not, right? It's after he's apparently died, and it's his family kind of getting together and see if there's anything in the will for them, but secretly he's still around, and he's actually decided to start. So apparently in this version of reality, Pinochet died just because he stopped drinking blood and he wanted to die, right? But it turns out that he's got a lust for life, and he's well, it's either him or someone else. Is kind of a bit of a twist, kind of. Someone else is actually going out, not just drinking blood, actually making smoothies out of hearts, right? Out of fresh hearts.
Yeah.
And I think that's and then the other thing we should mention, then there's a Catholic nun who's been sent to under the guise of helping them with their accounting.
Well, it's a bit confusing, and possibly to exorcise him as well. Yes, there seems to be implied that she's going to do that, but also he didn't die though. He can stop his heart from beating.
Yes, yeah. As played by Ham Vadel, right? Plays Pinochet, his wife, Lucia Gloria Munkheimer, Fyodor, the butler, Alfredo Castro, and Paula Lusinger as the nun, and Stella Gonnet, I think, Scottish actress, I believe, plays Margaret Thatcher. So it was interesting when the film mostly plays out in Spanish, but the narration is in English, right? And it's this woman's narrating the story, and it took me like 5 minutes, and then I was like, hang on, is this someone doing a Margaret Thatcher?
I think it would have taken less time from me, but it took me much more time because I didn't realise that. So I about 15 minutes in was when I realised that I was because I was thinking, why is it all in English and it's in English dub? I said, what's going on here?
Or did you watch the English dub?
Or I started watching the English dub, not wanting to, expecting, and because of the Margaret Thatcher thing, I think it was confusing to me as to what the
right.
Anyway, so
even in the original Spanish, her narration is in English. No, but I was watching. I was thinking, I wonder if this is someone doing Margaret Thatcher, and then when she says the thing about a character is not for turning, right? Exactly. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's fucking Margaret Thatcher. Yeah. And then later on, she mentions another. There was another time when I was, in South America, and there's allusions to the Falklands and stuff. So even before they specifically say, but finally the penny dropped. I was like, oh, okay, this is my. And the thing is, now it's a vampire film. Pinochet is ageless vampire. Margaret Thatcher is, spoilers, the mother of Augustus Pinochet. I should.
On paper, it's perfect.
Yeah. I should fucking love this film. But yeah, I suppose talking soft targets as we were with Saltburn, although this is a better film than Saltburn, I think. Mostly plays out in black and white, very good looking film. But I don't know, it's got some arresting imagery, and like I said, I do like the concept of Thatcher as mother of South American dictator, and all that, and the extended metaphor of blood drinking, and towards the end of the film there's this whole kind of thing about them still profiting. Even after all these years, one more generation has found a way to cannibalize history and profit out of it, right? And then also trying to bring in the Catholic Church as kind of a rival entity, trying to, because I think what they're trying,
they come in the end.
Yeah, and one of the things I think they're trying to is that prior to prior to these horrible people further back in time, who would have been the horrible dictators, you know, sucking the blood of, that was probably the Catholic Church, right? So there's a lot of stuff in here that I should really love. But for me, it's, I don't know, it lays its table and then kind of that's it. Like, it doesn't, like, all the metaphors and everything and all the things that are laid out and that's it. Like, they don't really go further into it. So,
well, it's kind of disjointed.
I was hoping for a lot more. I thought there'd be more to it, but it seems like they had more good ideas and they actually knew how to deal with.
Isn't the thing that spoiled it for me, I guess, was just I mean, you know, I don't really know the I had looked at I think when Pinochet died, that's when I looked up, that's the last time I was sort of aware of the history and looked anything, and I can't remember any of it. But it was the kind of, it was almost like the plot of the nun basically talking to them, and I'm presuming that all those children of Pinochet were actually real children. As in they were based on his real children, and the crimes that they committed were maybe their real crimes, right? Like the corruption and things. But I didn't know. So again, it was similar to one of the other films we were talking about. I can't remember, but it was implicit in a way that, similar to reality. Is implicit that you might have an understanding or knowledge in the same way that reality is, you know, that's in the consciousness of the Americans if they watch it, you know. So you might watch this with a consciousness that you understand, you know, you understand what she's doing to them by making them kind of confess their sins in a way. But to me, that felt like a detraction from having a really good film about Pinochet as a vampire and then Margaret Thatcher. Yeah,
there's maybe too much going on and also not enough at the same time. They can't go and to your point as well about me too. Like, I vaguely know about Pinochet and stuff like that, but I didn't know like what the real life analogues of the children. I don't know who they would be, like if they're famous. And even the butler character as well, right? He was some kind of notorious henchman, right?
Fyodor, isn't it?
I vaguely, you know, obviously he could be a stand-in for lots of different people, but I think but the thing is, in that case, I don't think our lack of knowledge would make it. I think actually, if you knew who those specific people were, that would actually probably make the film even less enjoyable, because it would be too obvious. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe. I don't even know. I didn't know what it was bringing to the table, because it was sort of like, if you don't know what they did, you're kind of none the wiser, and you know, and then I didn't know what it would bring to the table if you did know, whether it would be like, I don't know. I have no idea. So you know, like I was saying, whether it was a confessional type thing, I don't know. And it was seemed like it was building up to them all getting their comeuppance or something. And
I feel as if there might have been some allegory that went over my head, but I don't think that's just my fault for being ill-informed. I think it's the film didn't do its job. So, or not. So, for instance, the whole thing about the Pinochet falling in love, or not falling in love, falling in lust with the nun character and biting her, and she allows to be bitten, and then there's like time-wasting flying scenes. And the flying scenes look good and everything like that.
Yeah, they do look good.
Thinking, what the fuck's this got to do with this? Is there is there an allegory I'm not getting? Something to do with, oh, well, actually, these do-gooders, actually, if they get a little taste of what totally unfettered kind of, you can do whatever the fuck you like is, maybe you too would fall victim
I don't know.
to it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what her plan was, and then I didn't know what her plan was, and then I didn't know what her plan was, and then at the end I still didn't know. She had different plans, and I didn't know what they were, and I didn't know whether that was intentional or not.
If you're gonna push, like, obviously they cast an attractive actress to play the exorcist nun or whatever, but it seems so important for the story for the Pinochet character to get a major hard on for that character. I'm surprised they didn't there should be more sexuality there, right? There's not much. They almost drop that after a while. Like, at first I thought she was going to come in and this is going to get really erotic, right? Because it feels as if it's such an important, and they keep talking about, like, the best blood and heart of all is one of a young woman and all this, and you're thinking, yeah, okay, that's part of the vampire thing anyway, obviously the eroticism. So that felt like it was really important that it was going to go full-blooded into the eroticism angle, and then they kind of forgot about it, right? They didn't go down that route that much at all.
I don't know. I don't know what was.
And then there's some very early on. There's some quite hardcore gore where someone gets their face smashed in, and I was thinking, oh, they're gonna go the brutality angle as well, right? You're talking about, a dictatorship. Okay, yes, this is how it should be.
Yeah.
But they don't really. It's not particularly.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be
violent.
I thought it was going to be a kind of there's this short story by Kurt Vonnegut about similar. I mean, it's a trope anyway. The kind of inheritance, trope sort of thing where the family get together for a meal. What was that film I watched the other day? There's another film I watched the other day. I can't remember it. No, but that where it's the rich, patriarch or whatever, and everyone's coming to try and
as well, right?
get their try and prove their. Oh, what was that? That was the one with the it was an old film. That was good. That never mind. It was, and it's got it's got a family who are really ridiculous. They're like playing it's a really well known film, but play like the mother gets the it's got Paul Newman in it, I think, and what's her name, our British Welsh actress who was married to Burt.
Oh, are you talking about Butterfly 8?
No.
Oh.
No, I don't think so. Anyway, it's got this family that are kind of
Liz Taylor, you mean?
Liz Taylor, yeah, and it could have been that. Well, anyway,
I haven't seen Butterfly 8 I can't even remember what it was
well,
about.
It's about
yes, because I'm thinking Paul Newman.
This film was, I think, it's Paul Newman and Liz Taylor.
It'll turn out that it was actually Samuel L. Jackson and
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Peter Dinklage.
Anyway, that just the way that this family, constantly trying to impress the dad, who is just always bored with them, because they're bringing their kids forward and going, sing for him, and they're really terrible singers and stuff like that. Anyway, I thought it was going to turn into a kind of Carnage version of something like that.
We were both obviously disappointed. I mean, I don't think it was awful.
Yeah.
And I might give it another go one day if someone would. I don't think it is the case. I think we're probably. I don't think it's our ignorance necessarily. But however, if someone were to give me the key to the kingdom and say, "Oh, no, you got it wrong, and here's how you need to look at this," then I would happily give it another go one day.
It was like there could have been possibly lots of different allegories all layered into that film that I just didn't see.
Yes, I buy that. I don't think so, but if someone were to show me the evidence, then yes, I can buy that. Anyway, vibes forward, and so again, we're talking about a film that we probably would normally talk about just because it's all over the place and everyone's talking about it. But seeing that we're here anyway, I had a feeling because of other members of your family, you would probably, and their interests and obsessions, that you would probably end up seeing this film in a theatre anyway. And I knew I was going to go see it. So I thought, well, fuck it, let's talk about it. And that is, of course, Poor Things. Again, talking of Oscar nominations, this is the new Yorgos Lanthimos film, as based on a novel by Alistair Gray. Recently, me and Nick did another Alistair Gray novel for Literary as Fuck. We talked about Lanark.
Oh, right.
Kind of interesting book. And I read this as well, just prior to seeing the film, because I quite liked Lanark, and the book was good as well. I don't know if you read the book.
No, and I didn't actually find this that good, but we'll get onto that. But I wonder if your enjoyment of the book added to it, maybe. So I didn't know anything about it. So
okay, there's a few differences in the. So, for instance, there's a thing that the Willem Dafoe character does. You know, when he like burps out little bubbles.
Oh yeah, it's a gastric.
That's not in the book at all.
Oh well, that was really good though. I like that.
Yeah, I like that, but that is unique to the film. There's nowhere in. The only thing in the book that's comparable is in the book, for some reason, that character has a voice which apparently when he raises his voice, it's like deafening to the point of making people pass out and stuff like that. But instead they decided to do this thing with and I agree with you, I like those. Every time Willem Dafoe let one of those bubbles go, I like that quite a lot.
It bursts on someone's face. Yeah, there were definitely things I liked about it anyway, but
yeah, so basically, for people who don't know, Yorgos Lanthimos, of course, the guy behind Dogtooth, Alps, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and his last thing won an Oscar, right? The Favourite, which had Emma Stone in it as well, who's the star of this, Bella Baxter, right? And so again, we'll probably get, just in case we get into spoilers, we'll do a spoiler warning, right? But Willem Dafoe is a kind of a Frankenstein-like, and also Frankenstein's monster-looking.
I think he's Frankenstein's monster. Is he not actually explicitly Frankenstein's monster? Again, coming blind, that's what I thought was inferred, that he's Frankenstein's monster, because in Frankenstein, the book, Frankenstein's monster is extremely curious about the world, quite intellectual, and
it's true, yeah.
So yeah, I figured he's like the logical extension later on.
I think you might be onto something there, because
Frankenstein
he's talking about his creator as well, doesn't he? His father being mean to him and stuff. And yeah, no, I think you're. And again, I think that's unique to the film. More in the book, he doesn't. He's mentioned as being kind of strange looking, but not the scars and all that. So unless that's some kind of reading of the book that I didn't take on board, but I feel that's unique to the film, maybe. Anyway, he basically we find out that it's a woman who attempted suicide, pregnant woman who's committed suicide. He's taken the baby out. He's taken the brain of the baby out and replaced her brain with the child's brain, right? So she's basically a fully formed woman physically with the brain of a child. And then she just throughout the film there's a series of different. There's the Willem Dafoe character, and then his friend, as played by Rami Youssef, who's a comedian, I believe. He's hired to kind of
I
take
recognise him actually. Yeah. Okay.
And they're betrothed, but then she needs to go off with a cad, basically.
Duncan Wedderburn.
Yes, as played by Mark Ruffalo, who's quite fun, I have to say, in this character.
Yeah, his voices are quite bad though. There you go.
Yeah, but I think I'd rather see him do this than Johnny Depp. Let's put it that way.
Why are you saying that?
Because he'd love to do this kind of thing. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
I get to put a moustache on and do a
British
English accent.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I'll do that. You know. I think I'd rather see Mark Ruffalo do it.
Yeah. Okay. Given the
choice, he's got that slight Terry Thomas kind of thing.
No, right? I don't know that you can't. Okay, I will draw.
No, you can't compare to the original, but I think he's doing he's all right. I didn't mind him. He didn't irritate me doing it. It's not like Johnny Depp doing Mordecai or something like that, right? Or doing another fucking Keith impression. Anyway, she goes off with him around the world, Lisbon, Paris, different places, and it's basically it's a not a coming of age exactly, or
what do you call that?
It's a story about someone discovering.
It is a coming of age story.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. She's kind of like and also it's to do with female empowerment and the patriarchy and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, Claire was saying that the novelist Alistair Gray is a socialist, and the socialist aspects of their books are quite prominent, and this wasn't in this film really. It was lip serviced at best. Is it quite explicit in the books?
It is. This is my main thing I would say, and we'll talk about whether you like the film as a film or not. But definitely one thing that's worth saying up front is Alistair Gray's novel is, it's all that stuff, and it's very serious about it, right? And his other book, Lanark, as well, is very serious about that stuff. And it's, but you're right. I think what Yorgos Lanthimos has done, which he does with all his films, and I like Yorgos Lanthimos. This is not a criticism, but I wonder if people are taking this film a little bit too seriously as a message film. Because I ultimately think Yorgos Lanthimos doesn't really care about that. Yorgos Lanthimos just likes the idea. He's hijacked the narrative, and he's just done some stuff that he thinks would look really cool on screen, and that's about it. I don't think there's depth to this film, but I don't expect depth from a Yorgos Lanthimos film. Therefore, it doesn't annoy me. But I can imagine if you were expecting depth from it, then it could maybe be. Because the reason I say that is because the very end of this film, like the last scene in the garden, and there's like the half animals running around, and that character, the mean ex-husband character, has been neutered, right?
Oh yeah.
He's now like he's actually talk about on the nose. He's actually a leaf-eating creature now, right? He's not and all that. I was thinking, if you were to take that little thing at the end seriously, like that would be such a. I don't even know where you'd begin in trying to unpick what the message is in all of that, what the coding would be, right? And then you realize, you don't have to, because Yorgos Lanthimos doesn't care. He just wants to create a weird, cool ending to his film. And if you just take it at face value, that's fine, right? I think this film only becomes more problematic if you try and look for a deep. Because if you trying to take it seriously in things that it has to say about take your pick, then it becomes more problematic. What do you think?
Well, I didn't know anything about it, so I didn't I didn't come at it thinking this is going to be a film with a message of any kind, or
Mm.
so I didn't read it like that at all anyway.
Okay.
But at the same time, the for me the things that the thing that didn't work was I just didn't like Emma Stone's acting in it. So to me, it was like she reminded me of Wurzel Gummage's wife in the
That's
original
interesting.
Wurzel Gummidge. She's just stiff and kind of annoying. But
I was thinking a little bit of if you've ever seen that film Frankenhooker. She kind of plays just in her mannerisms, just in
yeah,
her physical mannerisms.
and I think it was like because it was one of those films where I was quite bored quite a bit of the time, and I do think this is to do with you reading the book. What I was thinking was, by the end of the film, I thought probably if I'd read the book, right, I thought I'd probably be disappointed, and I'm not I didn't expect you to like it that much, but because I thought that the characterization in the book was probably, it wasn't that I don't like Emma Stone or anything like that. I didn't like the way she played the part, but I didn't I felt like the expansiveness of a story when you read a story, especially the pace I read it, and the characterization and like you were saying how he's got a voice that's incredibly loud, that you can make, you can really play with that in your mind, and there were certain aspects of a lot of these things where I felt like I could probably have much more fun in my mind than I would have had watching this, where I didn't really like the way she played the what is the part? What is she called again?
Bella Baxter. Bella Baxter.
Bella Baxter. Yeah, I felt like a lot of it seemed like, for example, the constantly having sex sort of thing. Like in a book form. That to me, a lot of it looked performative and almost advertising-y, kind of in that modern world, like influencery, To me, it had a horrible kind of influencery feel, like, oh, have you been to see Poor Things? And like, have a look at this still from it, and have a look at this clip, like clip by clip, having a kind of almost soundbite, a clippable element to it. Just everything seemed to be staged really carefully, and but characterization wise and acting wise, it just didn't work for it. It didn't work for me. It was just a bit. It was a bit. I found her performance cringeworthy and jarring a lot of the time. Yeah, just really, really quite bad in many ways. And then
that's interesting. I mean, it's a tricky role to play, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Like I say, like with a book, you can do anything with that in your mind. Probably, I don't know the book, but I can imagine that that character being almost anything in your mind, and so what you bring to it is within your personality and within your power to bring. And I didn't like what she brought to it. I think but that's that's her. That's her interpretation of it. I just didn't like it, and I can imagine plenty of other people bringing something else that that I would have liked. But
another difference, as we're talking about the book, another difference between the book and the film, which is one of those strange differences where because it actually didn't make a difference, I'm wondering why they bothered changing it. So the original film, the original novel is very much a Glaswegian story.
Claire mentioned that,
Yeah, and it makes sense because of the era and the whole Scottish Enlightenment and all the way the city blew up and in terms of industry and medicine and Dr. Knox and all that stuff. So it makes sense that it's set in Glasgow. And I've read, if you know more about Glasgow, apparently the book holds a lot of kind of deep stuff in there as well. If you know to look for it, you don't need it, but it. But in the film, it's London, right?
Yeah.
It starts off in, but I don't know why they bothered changing it, because there's nothing specifically said about London. And
no.
I'm assuming she's jumping the Thames. She could just as easily as jumped in the Clyde. It's odd. It's just one of those differences. I didn't understand why they bothered, because they hardly spend any time in London proper. When they're there, they're either in that house or. So it was just weird. I was wondering why they bothered. Is it something to do with someone not? Because the thing is, Willem Dafoe is even doing a Scottish accent, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is weird. It could have been just to do with the idea that they couldn't get it out of their head, it not being at the Royal Institute. Where Frankenstein, Mary
could be.
Mary Shelley saw those Volta type demonstrations, didn't she, with the electrodes?
They're coming back to life.
But
it could be. It could be. I wonder, as a casting thing as well. I mean, again, like you, I have nothing against Emma Stone. I think she's perfectly fine, and I would imagine it's not beyond her means. Even though she's got a lot to do in this film, I would imagine she could have probably gone the extra length and done it in a Scottish accent, because the character Bella Baxter in the novel has a Scottish accent. So I don't know if that's it. If it was one thing too far. I was like, I can do this, I can do all that, but I don't think I can do a convincing Scottish accent as well. Yorgos, fuck it, we'll just change it to London. I don't know.
Could have been that, but Willem Dafoe did. Why didn't he just drop it? Yeah. I mean, his was all right, but it wasn't amazing. Yeah. He's dropped out in and out, but he's like, I'm Willem Dafoe. I can do whatever the fuck I like.
Willem Dafoe could do whatever he likes. It's like Christopher Walken would have done it in a Christopher Walken voice. They wouldn't have acted, right? Some people just get away with things, right? Because of
I mean, I didn't like the stylized stuff, like the ship with the. Like that ship thing went on for ages, and then it's got this weird, collage.
All right, you didn't care for that visual style.
No, the choppy waves and then the boat not moving and all that. I just found that I found it all too music video-y. Like, whereas it could, under the right circumstances, it could be, and with the right, maybe with the right kind of, I don't know. If it were different, I would have liked it. But it was. I can see how certain things would work, but that, but and again, like watching a film is so subjective. It depends on what mood you're in when you watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you see it in the theatre?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there was a horrible smell from the toilet that was coming across into the cinema.
That doesn't help.
That was pissing me off. But it was it was it was nice, a nice cinema with comfy chairs and stuff like that. But I don't know, but like not many people in there, so it was an easy watch in that regard. But I don't know.
I was surprised how packed my screening was. I went to a relatively late night screening that finished at 11, but there were quite a lot of people there. I was kind of quite surprised. Yeah.
Well,
and some people were really. There was some women. There was a group of women, and they were just screaming with laughter.
Yeah, there was some people at the back of mine like really howling with laughter. I was like, what? I didn't.
I wonder if
Did
there's
you
something
laugh
to be
once,
said.
or I
I
think I
wonder
might
if
have
there's something
sniffed.
to be said for maybe we're not quite, maybe, you know, we're not quite aware of maybe how unusual it is to go and see a film where the main character is a woman who's like, you know, very sexually voracious and active, and gets to do all that stuff, and is also not a victim, and is also you know, not slut shamed or anything for being like that. So I'm wondering, maybe that's kind of, you know, quite liberating if you don't get to see a woman get to do that on screen that much. It's kind of a bit of a night out to see that, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of the laughter and stuff was sort of the kind of haplessness of Mark Ruffalo's character versus the kind of how he
and I
can cope.
I can get that. It must be nice to be able to see that for a change.
I just felt that it wasn't very well acted by either of them in that way. But you know, I just felt like if I'd have read it in my mind, it would have been different and better. But
well, the other thing as well, I don't know if you've seen any of Yorgos Lanthimos' other films.
No, I don't think so. I was looking just.
Killing of the Sacred Deer, The Favourite, The Lobster.
I've not even seen The Favourite. I should see The Favourite, really. Yeah.
The thing that's different about this one, and I'm guessing because it's coming from a source novel, so the thing that marks Yorgos Lanthimos' films out prior to this is they're deliberately delivered in this very odd, abstract way that people don't speak in real life, right? That's what marks out his films, right? And then I noticed this film, it was difficult to judge because the book is also a very stylized dialogue that isn't necessarily how people normally. So I can understand why Yorgos Lanthimos was drawn to it, but it was interesting. I couldn't quite tell where Alistair Gray started and Yorgos Lanthimos began, and therefore I can imagine this was very difficult to perform, which is, I think, why
it looked like it.
Which is why I think I gave the benefit of the doubt a little bit. I agree with you. Like every now and again, because Mark Ruffalo's performance is quite funny, it papers over, like you said. Every now and again, the accent drops off, or the intonation is not quite right, but I gave them the benefit of the doubt just because I thought, fuck, I bet this is difficult. And apparently, Mark Ruffalo did have a very hard time on the film. Like he was saying, like he kept thinking he was just going to get kicked off the film, because he didn't quite know how to do it, you know. Because it's. I suppose another good example would be very few people know how to deliver David Mamet's dialogue, right? Because David Mamet writes a very specific way that not many people can perform, right? But anyway, so I'm kind of interested. So, was I correct in it? So obviously you went to see this with your other half. And was that just wanted to see it, or was it specifically because of the Frankensteinian connections?
No, I think we were. I don't know. We might have seen I don't know if we wanted to see it. I don't know, actually.
I was just wondering if it was on the because obviously, because she's immersed in. I'm assuming there's, I don't know, some website or group or just what's the word I'm looking, word of mouth, where almost anything that comes along culturally that has allusions to that that she knows about it.
No, she might have done, but she knew about Alistair Gray's novel. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think it might have been on her radar in that way, but it was.
The reason I wanted to ask her to bring it up, I was just wondering did she have any insights in terms of that side of things, like how it did allude to Mary Shelley and stuff like that.
No, I don't think so. She was only saying about your your thing of it being in Scotland rather than in London. That was it. Okay. I think, as if I remember.
Has she read the book then?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Maybe. But yeah, we both kind of found it quite boring in the quite long and quite boring in some ways.
It was quite long. I'll give it.
It just did seem like
it. I'm surprised. I understand you're not getting on with it that well. Surprised you found it boring.
Well, just because it seemed to intersperse elements of sort of like when they seem to run out of kind of, because it wasn't that was it was just that she didn't have, because it was like she was playing a toddler at first, and she didn't have there weren't many strong characters in there. She didn't have very strong characterization, and then they in a sense, because she doesn't become a full-fledged character until the end, but she could have had more character, I mean, actually, funnily enough, a good example I think is, I mean, it's completely irrelevant in a way, but Blood Brothers, right? You know that the play? Yeah.
I remember going to see it when I was in school because I remember nothing about it at all though.
But that's about two twins who are separated, and it's a class sort of conscious film play. But I had to watch it because it's on the GCSE. It's on the syllabus before pre-GCSE with my son, and we watched one on YouTube, which was like really grainy and hard to watch, but the performances were so good that they shone through the 80s, sort of re-upload and whatnot of, just the quality degradation was really bad. But
this was a filmed play or a
film a filmed play, yeah. So one of the early performances, in fact, and the performances, the way the guy got into the child's skin of the Mickey, I think his name is, the main character in that, was fucking unbelievable. Like really, really good. I just felt like, she had an ideal opportunity to get in the mind of a child, maybe, and also get into the mind of a child who's also a like bizarre woman at the same time, and it just didn't seem like she was there. She just seemed like she was kind of playing it, and similar to Mark Ruffalo's character, he had a concept of this caddish person, but he didn't embody it. And just because it's sort of like a, just because it's a sort of, I don't know what you were saying it doesn't mean they shouldn't really immerse themselves in those roles, and I didn't feel like they did, like, at all. And so they interspersed everything with sex instead, to try and distract the audience.
The characters in the novel as well are very much ciphers, because the book as well is, like I said, it's about those concepts and ideas, and Alistair Gray very much just uses his characters as kind of mouthpieces rather than fully fledged characters. So in that way, the film is very much in keeping with the novel. So it could even be that you might not. I can see what I mean. Alistair Gray's novels, the two that I've read, Lanark and this one now. I mean, they are. If you want, you can watch our YouTube video at Lanark, but they're. I mean, Lanark especially because it's fucking long. Poor Things is much shorter than Lanark, but they're very tough going sometimes because it's like it's almost like they're like not just information dumps, they're like they're emotional dumps. They're like both of these novels that I've read, they just feel like plop. Like they're not refined. I mean, they're well written, but they're just everything is, especially Lanark, like you have to somehow sift through the whole thing for it to have a cumulative effect at the end, if you see what I mean.
But you can, I can read a book and do a lot of that work myself.
Sure.
I can attach loads of different characterizations to people.
But what I mean is, I'm just wondering if you might not get on with the book.
Might not, no. But I have read, books where characterization, might not be often is not, written out for you, but you can somehow, you can create that character out of various bits of dialogue and stuff like that, and it might be different for everybody, but it can be sometimes because of what happens as well. I just think it, so I still think to me it remains that like those parts were open for them to take up and really sort of get their teeth into, and they somehow didn't. But I don't know. Maybe what you're saying. Like I say, without having read the book, I can't say what the difference would be. But yeah, and you can't see what the difference would be unless someone else did those parts, and then you might see, oh, okay, it could have been actually,
right,
more.
But at the end of the day, you do have to judge the film by itself, right? Regardless of whether you've read the book or not, and so it's still valid. And like you said, they don't have to be. They could have done whatever, and this is what they chose to do, and wasn't to your tastes, obviously.
No, not really. Well, I just found it, too superficial in many ways. Just
I agree with you, and in fact, it's interesting in a way. Even though I obviously enjoyed it more than you did, and we came at it from different approaches. It's interesting that we both agree that it is quite superficial and surface and shallow. For me, that's actually not a negative in this case, though. But regardless, we both seem to agree on that.
Yeah. No, like I say, I wouldn't mind if it was just frivolous and fun, but at the same time, just that they immerse themselves a little bit more in their, like I say, to me the acting was just a little bit missing. They're good actors, but they weren't able to.
2 vibes forward for you.
Yeah, no, it was vibes backwards. Oh, I don't know.
Whatever the opposite of that is. Right.
Yeah.
So stop it there.